Welcome to the Wheel of Time podcast. We are the Lorehounds, your guides to Randland. I'm David.
I'm John, and this is our coverage of the Amazon Prime fantasy series, The Wheel of Time.
In this podcast, we're going to do a scene-by-scene breakdown of Season 2, Episode 3, What Might Be.
Be sure to stick around to the end of the podcast for programming notes about our September podcasting schedule, followed by the inaugural White Tower segment, where Elysia, Sadai, and I deep dive into the lore of the books.
For early and ad-free access to all of our podcasts and a whole ton of exclusive content, visit us at patreon.com/thelorehounds. Also, we'd love to ask, if you're enjoying what we do, consider leaving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It's the best place to help raise our profile, even as far away as the Aiel Waste.
Special for the Wheel of Time, we have a new feed set up just for this show. So if you're only interested in this content, you can subscribe to that channel. However, there's a ton of other fantasy and science fiction and nerdy TV and video games and books that we cover, which you can find on our main feed, The Lorehounds, which you can find on YouTube or Spotify or any other podcasting platform you'd like to use.
We love to respond to your questions, thoughts, and theories on air. So send us feedback for the next episode that we record. We'll read those in. And as a reminder, we're recording these episodes in advance with screeners, so your feedback may be cycled in a little bit later on in an episode.
Send emails to wot@thelorehounds.com or head to our website and either use the voicemail feature or the contact form. You can also post a message on our Discord server, and we can include those as well. Link in the show notes for all of that. David.
Yes, sir.
Your first run through this story, what'd you think?
This episode was tough.
Really?
I found it really... there was a lot of physical violence. There was a lot of emotional violence.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of a rough episode.
Do you mean rough in its content or rough as a story? Like, did you not like the story?
Oh, no, the story construction was fine. It was a well-paced episode.
That's a very different thing than I thought you were saying at first.
Sorry about that. Yeah, no, the well-paced, well-constructed. There was a lot of stuff that I really liked. I love the fact that with Nynaeve's character and going through the arches, they didn't interrupt that or weave it through any other plots. I mean, obviously with the one sort of exception, but that was fine. But just, with sort of it's not even a cold open. I mean, we're getting a title card, and so we'll see what the broadcast are, because we're doing screeners. So
it's a lukewarm open.
Yeah, it's a lukewarm open. There you go. It was thawed for 30 seconds in the microwave.
Right.
But I'm really appreciative of the fact that they let that story line run, that plot run, and really build an emotional impact in us for what she was going through and just these horrible things, and then falling into the arms of her lover, and the birds sing and the rainbows come out and all of that. That was just lovely. That was like a really great way to tell that story encapsulated. So the construction of the episode overall was great. I think it was a little confused at the ending, but we can talk it through. Like he set the place on fire. I was like, wait, what? Was that a dream? Was he really?
Oh no, that's definitely like a blaze. Yeah. He's
No, just the sequencing, it just seemed a little odd.
That was a little weird. I agree with that.
Yeah. So all in all, but that said, all of that said, I enjoyed the episode. I loved seeing the depth, getting into the deeper stories and motivations of the characters. And also a lot of this episode, I just had to not, just go, I don't understand this. I don't know what this is about. I don't know why this is happening. It is what it is. I just have to accept it. And I know I've got a great podcast to listen to, and we'll figure it out.
There you go.
And we'll see what happens down several episodes. And so just setting aside any questions I had and just accepting it. So there's a lot in this episode where I was just like, okay, I don't know what to say about that. Yeah. Like there were no production problems. There were no acting problems. There was no script problems. It was just, it played out nicely. It was just a well-delivered piece of television.
The thing about The Wheel of Time is that it is so long that, the concepts are complicated sometimes, you have a long time to figure out how they work.
Okay.
And there is a struggle in translation there with you have less time in a show than you do in a book to help the reader remember what a terangrial is, which we can go through in here. Boy, we are about to be introduced to many words that will make you go, what? And Robert Jordan was not pithy in his naming.
I'm going to segue weirdly. We are continuing our read through of the Silmarillions, the Silmarillion in our podcast, The Silmarillion Stories. And this was chapter 10 of the Sindar that we were catching up. So I was listening to the audiobook of it while I was doing chores and stuff today. And you want to talk about a list of proper nouns. I was like, what the hell is going on? And I had to laugh because on our Dune podcast with Properly Howard, our network affiliates, when we were talking about the Denis Villeneuve film, you were complaining about the list of proper nouns.
Listen, I don't know what it is. I do not know what it is about Dune that has defeated me. I can handle Tolkien and it's fine. And I can handle Robert Jordan and it's fine.
This is what I'm saying.
And Dune just, for some reason, my brain turns off when I read Dune.
That's hilarious because the proper nouns, or there's the one scene in this episode with the weird people from overseas and the long fingernail lady.
The Shanshan,
Yes, thank you, the Shanshan. And there was a whole bunch of lore dump there. And I was like, where are these places? What is going on? Who are these people? And I just had to laugh because Dune broke you, and Dune is not that hard.
I know. Well, the Shanshan, that's supposed to be kind of shocking and confusing to you because it's shocking and confusing for the characters, right?
Oh, it works. It works.
Suddenly there's these invaders from overseas who are telling you, you've forgotten that we were actually your rightful rulers. And we're like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a lot to talk about to that scene. So we'll, I'm biting my tongue because I got questions.
Right. So. Yeah, I'll give my general impressions quickly. I loved the episode. I thought, Elysia said to me something early that said, I don't know why they did 3. They could have ended after 1 on the premiere, but if they were going to end after 1, they should have done 3 and not 2. So she's glad it's a 3 drop and not a 2 drop because episode 3, I think, is a lot stronger than episode 2.
I felt that way just from a television storytelling standpoint.
Yeah.
It seemed it was a solid episode of television.
Yeah. And episode 2 wasn't bad. It wasn't bad.
It wasn't.
But it was not as good as episode 1 and not nearly as good as episode 3, which I think is the strongest episode of the season so far.
Okay.
And they did a lot of nods to the books without lingering, which was very good. They shocked me in some points by taking changes that I think worked, but were very violent and shocking.
Okay.
And they are developing certain plot lines faster than I thought that they would, but also in very interesting ways that are surprising and delighting me, as we like to say.
Okay. So as a book reader so far, 3 episodes in, we're not even broadcast live yet. We're ahead on screeners here. You are on track. You're feeling, you're in the zone. This is turning out well.
I feel like they are capturing the characters, which is the important part.
The important thing.
They are not following the story note for note at all.
They can't. Who can?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
they could have a little bit more, let's be honest. But
okay.
But they in this season, I like the way that they're taking things. From where they left it at season 1, I think they're on a great track for season 2. I'm really looking forward to where they go from here. There's things that you've said in these episodes that make me think that it's working for non-book readers.
Okay.
Because you are being taken in by what the show is telling you, and I love that.
Okay.
And I am going to love watching you digest changes that may come down the line.
So I will say this as a non-book reader, and we'll go into sort of our notes about the context of where we're approaching this from. But if I were not a, interested party in science fiction, in fantasy, and in, everything from MCU to Tolkien, whatever, this would be not the easiest show to onboard me with. Yeah. So this is if you want to take that a spectrum again, kind of a slider approach. I think we're on the side of this is a show for the book readery, science fiction,
Sure,
fantasy
sure.
nerd. This
At
is
least people who
not.
like Tolkien soup, right? They
Yes,
want more of that. It's not like I could see someone watching Game of Thrones first and then enjoying this. I think that
totally
that's a
fine.
reasonable transition. We're watching the Lord of the Rings movies and then watching this.
Right.
I don't think you're going from just watching Die Hard to watching this. You know?
No, and even if you're just adjacent to like, oh, I enjoy a light fantasy or a light sci-fi kind of thing, if there is such a thing. But anyway, you know what I mean? If you're
Sure, sure.
adjacent,
I think like Neil Gaiman would be considered that, right? Like this,
yeah,
a little bit of magical realism, things like
right.
that.
So yeah, we're definitely on the side of you. The more you are into these kinds of worlds and world building and type of storytelling, the easier it is going to be. The as you get to that midpoint, it gets much harder, I think,
Yeah,
because there is a lot of culture and lore and magic and names and who is this character and why are they
right,
doing this
right,
and what the hell is this about. So if you just dropped into season 2, there's a lot of swimming that you're going to have to
right.
do to stick with it.
Yeah,
But this is one of the best selling book series ever. I mean, it's a huge.
I'm not sure. It's very well selling. I'm just not
I
sure
don't
where it
know.
ranks.
Yeah, I don't know where the
Yeah,
numbers are, but right, the fandom is solid and big, right?
yeah. Well,
So
but we know that you can't rely on a fandom to pump up the numbers for a TV show. You're just not going to make all the money back that you need to make
yeah,
for that.
no.
So
So
I don't think that they need to rely on just the Wheel of Time fandom. I think fantasy fans generally will
should
really love
be
this.
fine with
And
this.
I think honestly, if you start with season 1 and you maybe rewatch it once and maybe you have some podcasts to help you through, I
I'm sure
think
there's
this is
some.
fine to is your first fantasy series.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I think the first one is recognizably Tolkien adjacent, which helps you get through that story, right? It's a pretty straightforward story, season 1. And now we're starting to take off some of the veils of Tolkien and get underneath and see
right.
how different this world is.
Right. I think that's important. And I think it's good job security for podcasters.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
There you
We're
go.
your companions, And I think the model here that we have between you, from me to you to Elysia, is a good broad spectrum so that we can really cater to
Yeah.
everybody's level of interest and engagement. So
Yeah. Well,
cool.
David,
Yes.
maybe we should get to our production notes before we get to the recap.
Yes. And that is, we kind of review these every episode just to make sure folks understand our context and not assume make assumptions about what we are and what we're not. I've never read the books. I didn't even hear of these until the first season. John, you've read the whole series at least once,
Yeah.
and you're working on a second run or something. You've read a lot of other ones.
I've read a couple of them 3 times, but then most of them I've read twice. Yeah.
Okay, got it. We've got screeners for episodes 1 through 4, so we're recording ahead. So when episode 1 through 3 drop, we have podcasts ready to go for you. And we're going to just stagger those slightly so that we don't, crush the servers. But those will all be out once the Amazon embargo lifts, so that, we'll be right there with you as you're watching them and as you need. We're not going to spoil ahead with the books, but John, I think you're going to make comparison with events that already happened in the show.
Correct. Yeah. So if something happened differently in the book, I'll make note of it. Maybe not always, because it's not always important. But I think that where important changes happen, we will bring them in. And
then, as we mentioned earlier, at the end of the podcast, so we'll finish this. We normally then have some feedback, and then we talk about our upcoming schedule, and we give a shout out to our Patreon subscribers. And then after that, you and Elysia are going to go into your White Tower segment, where you're going to go deep into the book. Now, you've already recorded that before.
We did. Yeah. It was almost an hour.
Right. Oh, this will be a quick one. It's an hour.
I know.
And so that'll be at the very end of the podcast. So stick through to the end. And then that way, those of you, when when we get to the outro and stuff like that, as I leave, you can leave with me if you don't want to be spoiled.
Very cool. Very cool. David, it's time for the breakdown.
Yes.
Shall we begin?
Let's go.
The Aes Sedai explain the Ter Angreal arches to Nynaeve. They say the arches will bring her face to face with her greatest fears 3 times. There are 2 disclaimers. Once she begins, she must continue to the end or be put out of the tower. The second is that some women have gone in and never come back. She may refuse to go in 3 times before being put out of the tower. David, what did you think about this arch scene?
There's a lot that I liked about it. I don't want to be don't take this the wrong way, but it was a very Christmas Carol. You know, you'll be visited by 3 ghosts, and each one sort of increasing with this intensity and whatnot. I thought that the setup was good. I liked the 3 Aes Sedai sisters there. The setup, the mistress of novices. We don't know who the middle Aes Sedai is. She's
Yeah, I'm
wearing
not
blue.
sure her name. Yeah.
We've seen her before around the keep and stuff like that. And then Leandrin, who's the one who's, pushing this. I like that Leandrin seeds the idea that some might not make it back and that's what's going to kind of happen here.
Well, everyone gets that warning when they do this. They always get that warning. Yep.
But from a storytelling standpoint, that it works. It works for us to prime our sort of pump. I don't know. I mentioned this on the last podcast. One of the arches is whole. The other 2 are broken. I don't know what that means. I don't know if there's a later significance or if that's just like production people.
I think that's just production
people
detail.
having fun because they seem to operate fine.
Well, they're explaining that these come from the Age of Legends, right? So this is an art that has been lost. Right. Either they're not powerful enough or they don't know how to make these Ter Angreal anymore. And a Ter Angreal is something that does a very specific thing with the 1 power.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they don't even require anyone to channel into them. They just use the natural channeling energy of the world and they work. These ones do require Aes Sedai to channel into them to make them work.
Which was a cool thing to see all 3 of them in synchronicity and firing them off. And it seemed like it took something from them too. They were all a little bit like, whoa, that was a lot of power.
Takes a lot of energy out of you,
Yeah. Even though, you might not make it back. And then indeed she doesn't. But at the same time, I was like, well, Nynaeve's got a lot of plot armor, so I'm not too worried.
She does have a lot of plot armor. Yeah. I was just thinking like, all right, I know she survives, but I don't think anyone else is going to doubt this either.
Right. And so I just was in my mind, I was like, okay, let me play it out. And I actually was got. I was like, whoa, wait, this is interesting. Maybe she's going to be in here for a little while. And it was very Star Trek Generations-y for those of you who've seen that, where there's this ribbon of energy. Andy McDowell's character, it's McDowell. What's his first name? Gosh, I can't think of it. And Picard goes in there and encounters Kirk, who's in there, and they're kind of stuck in there. And it's this very idealistic world. And at some point, there's this sort of repetition and whatnot that doesn't. If you're aware enough, if you can kind of feel the edges of the illusion, you're like, oh, wait a minute, this is weird. And so I got that vibe later on.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting to see how the whole thing was going to play out. And I find it very interesting that she got a second chance, which is not a normal thing, I would guess.
No one has ever come back out.
Exactly.
She's the first one to ever do it.
Which I thought was so it was like, okay, Nynaeve's got plot armor. Fair enough. How are they going to tell me how they boxed themselves into a little corner here? How are they going to get out? Cool. They did a good job getting out.
Do you think that there is a multiverse in the Wheel of Time? Even if they don't call it that.
It certainly feels like it's possible, doesn't it? We know that there's a big long timeline because of a scene that they dropped in season 1. I don't know. There's more to talk about. So maybe ask me that at the end of the this sequence.
Okay. Well, why don't we get into the first arch?
Yes.
Nynaeve agrees to go through the trial, being told the 1 power will not be available to her and that the way back will come but once. The Aes Sedai activate the arches, and Nynaeve walks through to find herself as her childhood self with her parents. Though the experience begins peacefully, raiders attack her family. Her mother and father hide her underneath the floorboards, and her father tells her in the old tongue, "We shall go into the land so our children can always hold us and will never be alone." Her parents are attacked, and she readies herself to help them. But the arch appears behind her with Sheriam's narration, and Nynaeve leaves through it. This was heartbreaking.
Yeah. I thought it was nice character development and backstory for Nynaeve, so I really understand some of the trauma that her character has lived and why, or what are the things that might be motivating her, or why is she the way? How does she carry herself through the world? Okay, I can see some of the roots of that. And so yeah, it gave me a really nice dunk into her life.
Yeah,
And then they didn't belabor it. They didn't push the mirage too far. It showed us a primal fear for her, of
right,
loss
right,
and separation. And then there's like, boom, there's the arch, walk through it. Now we've
right.
got mechanics. Now we've got plotting. Now we've got character backstory. So I thought it was really efficient and
Yeah,
highly effective.
right. And we heard this story a bit secondhand
Okay.
in season 1 when Moiraine she translates the old tongue for Nynaeve
Okay.
because Nynaeve recounted a bit of this, and she said, "This is what my parents said to me," and she said, "We shall go into the land," blah blah blah, which is a lovely thing to say, and also really heartbreaking. Of, well, all you'll have left of me is soil.
Right.
Yeah,
So yeah, so good. I mean, it established rules for these journeys, and yeah, we really get to see some. We start right off with some very core motivation. So yeah, it was all
yeah.
good.
I almost said Nynaeve. Elysia pointed out in our spoiler section that the first challenge was different for Nynaeve in the books. She actually went back to the battle at Faldara and
Okay.
re-experienced some of that. But as Elysia said, I'm glad that we didn't go back there because that
Mm,
battle did not go well in the show. That
okay.
was not very enjoyable in the show. So
No,
this
I think
was a
this
great
was
way to
good.
bring in her character motivation. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. So the Aes Sedai pour water over Nynaeve, washing her clean of her sins and the sins committed against her. They tell her no one knows if what happened inside the ter'angreal is real, as some women keep their wounds and some don't. So yeah, they have to heal Nynaeve, right? Because she's got that wound from being pinned down.
Yeah, and I when the water came dumping on her, I was like, "Well, that's rude." And
But it's like a baptism, right?
yeah, it was exactly
Right.
what it is. And once I sort of got over that, sort of like, "Whoa, that was a bit of a shock," which I'm sure for her it was a shock. So good
Right.
job, show,
Right.
because if that's what you were trying to tell me she's feeling, I felt it as well. So cool.
Right. Well, it's
Um,
whiplash. It's total whiplash for her.
right. Yeah. So this idea, this ritual of absolution, I love that it's both psychological and somatic. That there is a physical that goes along with the words and we, or your soon to be sisters, we absolve you, you are absolved, we went through this, you're going through this, we understand, we are one within this pain and sort of trauma, and it's all washed away. And like, I really really liked this when the show goes deep in these lore things, like they did with the world construction stuff of the warders in season 1. They're really creating. I don't know how much of this is book or show creation. It's certainly visually show creation, but it feels good, and it feels
Oh, of like the ritual itself?
the
No,
water
this
dumping
is
and
straight up
stuff.
from the books. Yeah, they
The
they do
water
this in the
dumping and
books.
the okay, great.
Yeah. I think the only difference is I think Nynaeve is more clothed in the show than she is in
Okay,
the books because the books were written by a man.
right.
And
Fair enough. I did notice that when they were healing her, the weave magic was a mixture of blue and gold weave colors. So
Yeah.
Like I said, in one of the earlier podcasts, I'm just sort of paying attention to the
Yeah.
weave magic
Yeah.
stuff. So it's looking good. And I like that, it's like, oh, if I'm going to do this particular effect, I'm going to channel some fire, I'm going to blow some shit up, or I'm going to heal somebody or whatever, that they're paying attention to the colors and the way that is being created and into effect. So, nice
Right.
little details.
Yeah, I like that they have colored the weaves. That is better as the visual language in the show.
Yeah.
You can't even see the weaves unless you're another woman channeling,
Right.
and in the book. So there's no point in following the books exactly for this because we want to see visual effects in the show. Do what looks best, and I think that they did a lot better this season so far.
The funny too, because Nynaeve in this next scene, which you're going to read, she starts trying to weave and everybody's going, oh, that's cute. You're sort of waving your hands around and nothing's
Right, right,
happening.
right.
And,
Yeah, bibbity boppity boo.
yeah.
Let's get there. Nynaeve goes through the arch for a second time to find herself in Emond's Field in the middle of a plague. She speaks to a dying Tam Althor, who tells her this fever spread through the two rivers after she left. Natty Cawthon, mother of Mat, has taken over as wisdom and has begun administering deadly herbs to help terminal patients pass on. Nynaeve tries and fails to save Tam, then promises to stay with him until the herbs take effect. The arches appear with Sheriam's refrain, and Nynaeve leaves to begin shouting at the Aes Sedai about a plague.
So this is Mommy Dragon?
No, this is Mat's mom.
Right. He's the dragon. It's Mommy. It's Dragon Mommy.
Rand is the dragon.
Who is this? Whose mommy is this?
Mat's mom.
Oh, God. Oh, geez. I'm so sorry. I got my head. I'm
That's
sorry.
all right.
I jumbled up. I got
That's all
confused.
right.
So then who's Tam?
Tam is Rand's dad. He's dead.
Right. That's what I thought. And then
Yeah.
I was reading the notes. Okay. So I apologize.
Rand's mom is dead.
Right. That's
Rand's
what I assumed.
Raised mom is dead. You did see Rand's mom, his biological mother.
Okay.
On the slopes when Tam got him in season 1. Remember they did that scene?
Oh, that's right. Because he's a kind of an orphan.
He's
adoptee.
Informally adopted. Yeah.
Right. That's right. Okay.
Right. And we saw his mother was a warrior of sorts.
Yes. Right. And she went down fighting, right? If I remember right.
Right. She was dying and Tam took the baby. And so Rand was raised by Tam Althor and his wife, who died not long into Rand's childhood. So he's mostly just had his dad his whole life.
Cool. So this whole scene, the way they played it and the way that they had the characters reacting to Nynaeve, it felt like it could be contemporaneous in the story world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, okay, here we go. We're going to the ghost of your past, right? But now we're going to the ghost of your present.
Right.
And, we're giving you this moral choice. Stay and help these people, or go back and, complete your training. Look, your training is not complete.
Yep.
So,
what was, what is, and what will be, right?
Very much so. And so I could really feel her moral dilemma. Do I go back or do I stay? And I think these are the tests that you're supposed to be being challenged with in this, by going through these arches. So
right.
I really love this line. Every woman's fears are her property. Like it's your property. It's like you own it. It's real estate.
Yeah, but sub out problem for that and it's problematic, right?
Yes. Oh no, it's
your fear is your problem. Your fear is your problem. Deal with it.
She says, do not burden us with yours. And I was reading something somewhere. There was some internet kerfuffle where somebody was recounting like, oh, remember, you can spread joy and happiness. And somebody wrote back like, oh, how, you presuming to understand what makes other people happy. And that's just actually ultimately causing self-harm. And it's like, whoa, like, this thing sort of spun out of control and what is yours and what is mine. And we live in society and we
do live in a society.
We share burdens and we are social creatures and we need to be in society and share and see and be seen. And so I thought it was a really interesting line to go, yo, that's yours. I don't want, do not give that to me. Do not burden me with your drama.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Well, speaking of drama, we have one more trial here. And Nynaeve begins the third trial with a disturbing series of images, including her as a Red Sister, memories of Lan, and visions of his death. She exits the arch covered in someone else's blood and unable to remember what she did. When she is offered a great serpent ring, she refuses it, yelling about not wanting to be an Aes Sedai if it means turning her back on those in need. Egwene pleads with her to stay, but Nynaeve gives her a pep talk and leaves the White Tower. Outside the White Tower, she meets Lan, who heard she was going to the Arches and rushed to Tarvalon. She tells him she's going to the Two Rivers, and he decides to come with her. The Arch appears behind her, but Nynaeve only barely notices and stays within. They faked me out. Until the Arch showed up, they faked me out.
completely. I wish we had some subtitles in this scene because I wanted to hear the whispering, but it sounded mostly like Lan
Yeah, I think so.
talking in the voiceover.
Yeah, there were definitely. I remember voiceover of him. I think it was just scenes from last season mostly.
Okay, and then she had his hair tie in her hand at the end, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so, which makes sense why later he has no hair tie.
So
he's just letting it hang loose later.
Yeah, that's true. Later in the thing. So remind me, they were just romantically interested in each other in season 1.
I think they slept with each other in season 1.
Did they? Before the last battle when they were out at the keep or something like that, they were sneaking around and stuff. Right. Okay. So yeah, I was fake. I was totally faked out. I was completely
Like, and who read the book was faked out.
Fair enough.
But I will say in the book, she's not there for like an extended period of time. She is there a little longer. And she does do the same thing where she makes the Arch reappear. But she's not. It's not like a whole day passes and they're like, "Oh, where is she?" It's like minutes. It's just a little extra time.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's fair enough because we've got to give some space for Egwene to emote.
Right.
So
she's been a little stone cold for a while, and she just needs to do it.
Well, and this idea of am I here for you? Are you here for me? Are we here for each other? I tried to rescue you. I kept vigil. Very Christian in some ethic here. Sleeping outside the cave and waiting for somebody to come back.
I see what you're saying. I see where you're going with it.
Yep. Yeah, just a light. We've seen that story.
Seasoned
before.
With Christianity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I loved the comment. It's all right. The blood isn't yours.
Right. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Doesn't matter what you did in there. You could have slaughtered millions. Yeah, and this whole Nynaeve is one of my favorite. I think Nynaeve is my favorite character of the 5 Emmett's Fielders.
Okay.
I enjoy her the most, seeing her the most on screen, and yet her reaction to saying I don't want to be an Aes Sedai and storming off, I was like, girl, dial it down a little bit here. You don't need to be all all salty like this. It was a little bit much for me for her. So I get it. I get where they're going. I get what they're driving at. And of course it never really happened, right? It happened in her minds or in the archway.
Or does reality. Is it real? Is it fake? Is there a multiverse? There's a lot of questions here.
I don't know that you would have seen this. Do you know the Memorex commercials?
No.
Is it? So remember, back in the day we had cassette tapes and there was I gotta Google this now. Is it Live or Memorex? Is it Memorex? I can't remember. No. Okay. I'm going to have to look for this later. Maybe I'll post something in the Discord.
Okay.
But this idea that, fidelity, right? It was cassette tapes and is the fidelity is so good that you can't tell if it's real or recorded. So these are pretty real. And so I think that's your question before is there a multiverse?
Right.
There has to be, by definition, that she can, unless these things are going into her brain and she's stepping into some sort of pocket universe and having a hallucination, there has to be some sort of multiversal component happening here.
Could be. The wheel weaves.
The wheel
Let's
weaves.
do one last scene before we take a break. Outside the arch, Sheriam scolds Leandrin for pushing Nynaeve to enter the arches early, blaming herself too. Leandrin throws the jug of water and screams.
Leandrin is having a tough emotional time in this season.
Yes, she is. I think it's her son. It seems to be her son, which she does not have in the book, so that's new to me too.
Right. Matt, and all this stuff that going on with Matt, because that's a dead end, and then now with Nynaeve. So yeah, she's having a tough one.
Yeah. Yeah, she's well, I don't really feel badly for her for dealing with her own prisoner, but whatever. Yeah. All right, David, let's take a quick break. When we get back, we will go and join Perrin. And we're back. Let's resume the episode. After the title sequence, we rejoin Perrin, Loyal, the Shinarans, and the Shanshan. The gagged woman and her handler choose women out of the crowd to take. Then High Lady Suroth's speaker gives the Shanshan pitch to the people, declaring the land is theirs by right. They are told to swear oaths to forgive the debt of their ancestors. Uno is selected as first to swear the oath and is forced to kneel after attacking the Shanshan soldiers. A lot of It's hard to keep attacking the Shanshan soldiers. When he spits on the throne, they shove his head onto the throne spike as the soldiers chant the oath for him. High Lady Suroth smiles and says, "All will bow." The crowd listens, with Perrin being last. What'd you think of this, David? This is a big scene with a lot happening.
It is a big scene and a lot happening. I have a little bit of criticism here from me as a non-book reader-y person. I felt this went a little bit long. Okay. And I didn't understand some of the intensity of this, because if these are small folk or common folk, what's the point of the big dramatic ceremony? Just, do some stuff, be mean to the common folk, force them to swear oaths, but it's this big thing. And then I don't understand some of the power dynamics here, because I apologize, the name of our
the Forsaken, Ishamael.
Ishamael, why he's standing in that position and who this lady is. So it for me, it just went a little longer. It could have been probably a little shorter. And some of the stuff was just weird with the fingernails. Like it felt very 1970s kung fu movie. The sound effects were, here and there. Huge lore dump.
Yes.
And all of that said, we're ramping. We're adding a whole new element to the story. So I get it, and I'm on board with it. I just had a couple of little move it along a little bit here.
Right.
That's just me, though.
I'm going to do a casting note here. Is that Stormfront from The Boys?
Good point.
As the speaker?
Yeah. Well, we can't look up the IMDb.
I know, that's the problem. All right, write in if you know or not, right, because I can't confirm or deny this.
Could be.
She looks like her for sure.
Sure. One thing I forgot to say was just, got to pour one out for Uno here. I'm sorry to see him exit our stage so quickly.
That is not anything from the books. And because of that, I think that they did this scene specifically for book readers to say, fuck you, you don't know what's coming.
Wow. Okay. That's
anyone
punchy.
Can die.
Right.
Well,
which is fair.
Not anyone. Let's be honest.
Right. Yeah.
But these side characters that you love, that Robert Jordan would refuse to kill off. Yeah, we're not Robert Jordan. Daddy Jordan is not here to protect these characters. And Yeah, Uno just dies, and I was like jaw on the floor. He actually died, and it's a shame because he was one of my favorite like comic relief characters. But
Right.
he's gone. The comedy is gone from this troupe.
So that is interesting to for me, you know, okay, well, he was just this dude, right? For you, he means something.
Right.
And
Right.
so for him to go out like that, yeah, that is I'm glad that the book readers can be shocked a little bit here and while maintaining some story integrity, right? So
Right. Yeah,
he
like
died in a
it doesn't ruin the story to have him dead, but it did
no.
shock me as a book reader.
And it is it works within the story that they're telling. It made sense to me within the story
Yeah.
framework.
Make an
It was not
example,
out of
right?
order.
Make an example, right?
He was, clearly like one of the guards saw that he was going to be trouble. And so they, made an example of him straight
Right. They
away.
goaded
So
him, right?
yeah, it was
Yeah.
effective. And I, it's not don't pause your VCR during that scene because they don't spare the graphics of
No, they
that.
don't. It's very bad. And did you say VCR? I just realized that.
Yeah, I did say VCR. Sorry. I'm showing my age
That's
there.
all right. That's
We
all
used to
right.
play and pause and you try and get it. And it was it was a difficult thing. So,
Yeah.
it was
I
tough.
swear to obey, to await, and to serve. What an oath.
Our pride is not worth more than our lives. So good,
Yeah.
wise words there.
I think he's absolutely right about that, Avatar.
Can you, without spoiling too much, can you talk about this whole stolen land thing and rightful heir? What can you share
Yeah.
about this? Because it was a huge lore dump.
Yes, it was a big lore dump. They're leaving out some details which are kind of vital to the whole story, but
Okay.
essentially an army that was very powerful was once driven out of Ranlan and sailed across the sea, and people thought they died on the journey because no one was ever known to come from across the sea. And now their descendants are coming back and saying, well, we used to rule this place and we're about to rule it again. And they're
Okay.
saying your ancestors all swore allegiance to our ancient kingdom, and you've forgotten about your oaths that your ancestors swore. You're going to retake the oaths, will pardon your failure to uphold them, and you will be part of the Shanshan Empire.
Okay. Who did it first, Robert Jordan or George R. Martin? It seems very, but hey, classic storytelling elements here. So
Right.
these weavers, so are these women that are being selected? Are they going to be taken to be trained as these gagged?
Can I answer that? That's my question.
Yeah, that's a good question. They're being taken for some purpose.
Sure. And you see that the gagged woman, I know what to call these people. I'm refraining from doing that so that you can find out as the show goes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, fair enough.
But this gagged woman is selecting people out of the crowd, we see.
So later in this scene, Lorgain, I'm sorry,
Logain, yeah.
Logain, sorry, I apologize. Logain says channelers can see other well, I could see you because you had this
I think that's his special talent. But
okay.
But women channelers can see other women channelers, and male channelers can see other male channelers when they're channeling, at least.
So what my headcanon was this scene was this I don't know what to call this young girl with the thing in her mouth, but that she's selecting people who potentially have, who have potential to be channelers. Like, why is she doing it? If she's just, choosing people to sacrifice or make example of, whatever, but she's going around and she's specifically choosing specific individuals. It felt intentional. And what's intentional? Oh, we're gonna make some more of you. We're gonna make you into some more of us like us. Because
I like your logic there, David.
Okay,
stick with it.
All right, good.
So the High Lady Suroth.
Yeah.
What do we think about her and her speaker and how she almost always refuses to speak to the crowd, right? She has someone do it for her.
This is where I was a little confused about the power dynamics too, because if she's this big, powerful person, why is she wasting so much or expending so much time and energy with just common folk? This feels overbalanced for, who these people are and who they're trying to oppress. You beat us, you sacrifice us, you make us swear an oath. Okay, fair enough. It seems just a little bit too much for me. And the whole, it's very ornate. I'm not sure how I am with the ornateness of it all. I don't know. How
Mhm.
do you feel as a book reader with
I
the
mean, I really
costuming?
love the portrayal, honestly, because
Okay,
I mean, you have one thing, which is she will not speak to people lower than her station, which is why
sure,
she has the speaker.
sure, that makes sense.
And you got to remember, she's a high lady, but she's not the empress, right? She is a
Right,
bureaucrat in the end.
right.
She is somebody of
Governor,
a lower standard.
a
And
conqueror.
what do you have to do when you're sent to go conquer? Is you have to start building up territory. And so
Sure.
she's got to go from village to village and have them swear oaths to somebody of nobility.
And be awful and terrible to scare the bejesus out of
Right.
folks so that they'll tell stories.
Right, exactly. They want
Shock
to
and
be
awe.
both impressive with the ornateness, and they want to be terrifying with the violence.
The
It's sort of a 1-2 punch there.
the foot soldiers are terrifying. Their helmets
Yeah,
are
yeah.
terrifying. So that part is good. Like that's working on me. So I guess I've kind of talked myself into understanding the the intent, the over the topness of this scene. So
Yeah. I really liked it. I really like this
okay,
portrayal. They're deeply unsettling, the Shanjan, and they are
deeply,
supposed to be.
yeah. I don't know what's coming out of her head. If that's hair or feathers, is that part of the helmet?
Oh, good
Um,
question. I don't know.
yeah, it's costuming, right? So I doubt that it's show stuff. So
Right.
question is are we going to see her face later at all in
Maybe.
coming seasons?
Maybe. Maybe.
And I don't understand why um, Ishmael. It's not Ishmael. I apologize.
Ishmael. Yeah,
Ishmael.
just put an A in there and you're all good.
Ishmael is. He seems to be a functionary and less of a like he's in some ways subservient to her.
I think he's an advisor. Look, if you are a villain trying to take over the world, you're probably going to want your feet your hand in a lot of pots, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to want to
So
directly rule these places when you're corrupting the
okay.
world.
All
That's how
right.
I see it. Is
Okay.
you're going through, and he's the father of lies. That's one of his names, right? So he's
Okay.
going through the different leadership, and he's trying to make sure that he's pushing them in the right direction.
Okay. All right. Okay. That
And
makes
we don't
sense.
know where Surah's allegiances are, you know?
Right. All right. Good thing we have a good podcast to explain all this for me.
Exactly. Yeah. There you go.
All right.
And don't forget, we've got more Forsaken coming.
Yeah. Right. Right. This is not this is one of many, right? So
Right. Well,
one of several.
many is yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if I would say many, but
One of
we're not
several.
actually sure how many they're going to bring into the show,
Which
because
is hopefully
there are a number of them, and some of them don't have a lot of development in the book. So a lot of people think they're going to start compressing them, which is fine with me.
I hope you're surprised and delighted by their choices.
Absolutely. Me too. All right, back at the Foregate, Rand visits Logain, who pushes Rand to ask what he wants to ask now that he has spent months working his way to Logain. He recounts seeing Rand in Tarvalon while he was caged, and says Rand was the brightest channeling energy he's ever seen. Rand asks Logain how to control the channeling, and Logain says he would only tell him in exchange for a bottle of Gildanan red wine.
Must be a good vintage.
Well, he's from Gildan, which
Okay.
is why he wants that.
Fair enough.
And it is a good vintage, you know. That's a high quality wine, and that's why Celine goes, "You're not getting that in the Foregate, you know,
Right.
not around this town."
Yeah, I was just gonna say I don't have a lot to say about this scene. I was a little chagrined that Rand was being so obtuse at the beginning, like, what? I didn't try to, weasel my way to get
Yeah,
next
yeah,
to
yeah.
you. When he's calling him out, and then so then Logain has to do a bunch of exposition. Well, I saw you, and channelers can see each other, da 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 da. And so it felt for me like I could feel the writers working here when I haven't really felt that up to this
Uh-huh.
point. And so I just wish that they had found a little different way. I'm on board again with what they're trying to achieve here. I believe they achieved it. I just felt it was a little bit. I felt Rand was a little obtuse here, and if you get called out and you're like, dude, I see your play. This is your play. You go, yeah, you got me. That's my play. So let's carry on. When you try to like keep the ruse up for too long, it just is a little bit. Meh.
Well, to counter that a little bit, I think Rand had been doing an act for months, and he's trying to keep up the act, and all of a sudden he just gets
He's
called
caught on.
out. I would be a little bit short of words too. I would be a little bit
Right.
clumsy in it too. I think we all would. Is the plan has gone awry. Logain caught on. Not only that, but Logain goes, also, I remember you. He adds on. So part of it is Logain is very smart. We've learned that. He might be having some mental struggles with what the show calls madness. I'm going to call it madness in the show. I would never call it that in real life, but that is
Right,
what the
sure.
show is referring to it as. He's
Channeling
suffering
sickness?
from madness.
That doesn't roll off the tongue.
No. Madness
Yeah.
is what it is.
Okay.
But yeah, so he's suffering from some kind of madness, but he's very intelligent and he has a great memory, and he's never going to forget this face that he saw. And that would shock me too. And also, you got to remember Rand's at work, so he probably doesn't want to get caught doing anything suspicious, right?
All right.
What if somebody walks into the courtyard?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. I can get on board with all of that stuff.
Yeah. You better. Rand sees.
Get some threats here. Hey.
There we go. Rand sees a party for the great hunt for the Horn of Valir forming, which Selene explains can supposedly summon an army of the dead. He asks Selene for help finding Galdan and Red, and the two leave to find Rand a better coat.
So I don't have too much on this scene. I think Selene, she's way more to me than someone who should be wallowing around the foregate. She is just doesn't have the energy of the foregate.
She does not. Yeah.
So it's there's a mismatch there, and I'm hoping that that's intentional and that there's something more yet to come.
An interesting thought you had there, David.
Does the wheel weave?
The wheel weaves. I can't say much. Selene is a book character, so I cannot say much about her.
Got it. She's great, and I'm loving her, and the romance feels like it's got some, there's some chemistry with the actors here, so it's working in that regard. What was the deal with the branding? People were getting branded, lining up to get branded.
They were getting their little mark for the Horn of Valir hunt.
Oh, so that's like your ticket to buy in or something?
I guess so. That's not in the book. So
okay.
That seems to be what they were doing there. I mean, they've changed this a bit from the book too, because the Great Hunt always starts in Ilium in the books, whereas this is Kyrian. So we've moved it.
So that's a big question here. Then is what can you tell me about this horn hunt that they?
Well, you've seen the horn.
It is that horn.
It's that horn. Yeah.
And so, okay, so there's extra layer of culture around the horn, and they turn it into a giant snipe hunt. Stroke. Probably day where you can just go around and be crazy and turn over apple carts to look for the horn. Is it a festival? Do we talk a lot about festivals?
I don't think so. I mean, it's we learned why it happens later, but it's essentially a send off, right? To get people out of town, and then they will search the continent for the horn. It's not like a local thing.
Okay, so
yeah, they're sending off people to like have hunting parties throughout the continent.
But meanwhile, the people who have the horn know that they've had the horn the whole time.
So in the books, it's found very differently. So I'm not going to defend how they did it in the show because I think it was stupid.
Okay.
But yes, that seems like the people in Shinar knew that the horn was there the whole time, which
Okay.
is fine, I guess. Fine. The Borderlands don't talk much to Ilium. Fine, I guess. Defend it if you want, but I like the way that they find it in the show better, in the books better, because it's a lot more mysterious. They find it in the eye of the world. That was like in the eye of the world. They find it.
Okay.
So when Rand goes and defeats Ishmael for the first time, really, then they find the horn in like a pool of doesn't matter. But
Doesn't
the
matter.
point is, it was lost. It was genuinely lost, and then it was found, and then Patton Fane has it. So now we know that Patton Fane is having it. So the second book is the Great Hunt. It's the hunt for the Horn of Valir. So there are these people leaving over here to find it. We know Perrin is looking for it, and so are the Shinarans.
Okay. But then this hunt would happen frequently, every year, every couple of years.
They said every few hundred years. That's that. They said that in this episode.
Boy, a few hundred years is a long time.
I know.
That doesn't make sense, but okay, whatever.
I don't know if they should have said it that way, but oh well.
Well, and like I said at the beginning, there's just a bunch of stuff I just have to accept because I have nothing but to. I mean, I can reject it and ruin my fun, so I'm just gonna go with it.
Right. Fair enough. Egwene and Elaine enter Nynaeve's room where Sheriam tells them she's dead and lectures Egwene about standing on her own. Egwene lashes out at Elaine, who leaves her alone. Egwene sobs in Nynaeve's room. Can I say that Elaine is extremely emotionally mature?
Yes, she is.
She is there for Egwene, and when Egwene lashes out at grief, she doesn't get angry. She's like, okay, I'm going to leave this person alone. I'll check in on her later.
My friend's hurting. I get it. I don't have to take anything that they say personally. I know they're just
right.
Yeah. So
what a very emotionally mature person. So good for her.
And she knows a lot.
Right.
She knows, she's well versed in how the tower works and what you can and can't do in certain magical situations and stuff like that. Right. So yeah, it's an interesting pairing and it's an interesting friendship that they're developing, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with Nynaeve back in the mix, because Nynaeve hasn't really interacted with Elaine much yet. So
right. What do you think about Sheriam in this scene? Because something Elysia said is she feels like Sheriam might be a little too cold in this show, where she's a lot warmer in the books. Are you getting a lack of warmth from her?
I'm getting that she should be more warm than she is delivering. Yeah. Okay. I would expect the way that they've done her hair and her look and her,
the Mrs. Doubtfire look.
Totally feels like she should be, this kind of thing, but to go with the switch, a daily switching for Elaine, that and some other things that she said and done, she is a bit harder than I expected. At the same time, I get it, running the novices is a hard work, and especially when you got folks like Leandrin constantly advocating you and adding you and, hitting your DMs like, yo, I want to, give me this and, help me with that person and whatnot. It's a lot that she has to manage. So I don't put it past, in my head canon, I don't put it past her.
Not to mention, she's the only one in charge of switching, so she could probably beat Arnold Schwarzenegger in an arm wrestling contest.
Have you been saving that one?
No, I just thought of it. I'm here all night. I had some coffee.
You and Steve from Properly Howard should get together. Yeah, that'd be fun. You guys could do a pod together. I did appreciate her Sheriam's bluntness. Like, look, I'm gonna talk bluntly because I respect you. I'm not gonna blow smoke. I'm not gonna mess with your feelings. I'm just gonna tell you she's dead. So that's the way it is. Deal with it. And I appreciate that. These are grown adult people who are doing difficult stuff. This happens, and the sooner you can resolve and rectify that for yourself, the better it's going to go for you. So
right. And she's someone who has white hair. She's obviously been around probably a couple hundred years already.
Hey, now
she's seen this happen. She's seen this happen
a lot,
before.
plenty.
She knows nobody ever comes back from this. There's no way anyone's coming back for this. She can't anticipate that Nynaeve's going to be the first one ever who comes back from it.
Right. So
Yeah.
little hard talk, and maybe novices need that, right?
Yeah.
They're missing their families. They're doing hard stuff. We want you to succeed. We're trying to set you up for success, but you got to step up, right?
Right.
You as the apprentice. You guys said you want to be here, so be here and do what you need to do.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on to Liandrin, who visits Matt and tells him she's letting him go after losing a sister in the tower. She taunts him about leaving his friends and calls him an insidious coward who mistakes his own moral failures for cunning and wit. Boy, invite her to the next celebrity roast. I mean, she's
brutal
to Matt. And you could tell it really affects him too.
Yeah.
Which this Matt is a lot darker than season 1 Matt, I think. Which,
okay.
Different actor. It just seems like the performance is different. I want to see Donald be a little bit more of the scoundrel, this like mischievous scoundrel.
Yeah. I'm not getting a lot of scoundrel vibes from him yet.
No. This guy who just kind of Matt needs to be this like person who is always like, why is it happening to me? Like that's the vibe that I need him to have.
Right.
And I'm not sure we're getting that yet, but again, we have not seen much of him yet.
Fair enough. Kate Fleetwood, the actor who's playing Liandrin here, is man, she's got a lot of raw emotional scenes happening throughout this season, right?
Yeah.
There is a lot going on with her character, and she is just, she's brutal. She's brutal in this.
A bit unhinged, one might say.
A little bit. So, it makes sense. You're not the fish. I'm throwing you back in the ocean. You're not what I thought you were. So off you go.
Yeah.
But as we learn later, there's more to it.
Right. So, exactly. I'm very curious to see where that goes too, because again, not in the books. That's brand new.
Okay. Cool.
Matt is down a path that I have not seen him go down before.
Okay.
In the White Tower, Liandrin returns Nynaeve's would-be Great Serpent Ring to the Forge, then is visited by Egwene, who accuses her of pushing Nynaeve to her death. When Liandrin tries to leave, Egwene channels fire in her path. Liandrin corners Egwene at the edge of the high cliff, telling Egwene she believed in Nynaeve. Egwene checks Liandrin's shoulder on the way out and walks away. I love this quote from Liandrin. She says, "It's not always the most powerful women who write history. It's the ones who survive."
So back to back Liandrin, filleting people scenes here.
Yeah.
The showrunners are not doing her character any favors if we want to feel any sympathy for her. So
in the books, I did not feel sympathy for her once.
Okay.
Literally once.
I love this too. She's like, "Oh, aren't you cute, girl? You want to throw some fire in my face?" I don't think so. The contempt that she looks at her with is like,
well, it's just like, all right, maybe she's like, I think Egwene has been established to probably be more powerful with the power than Liandrin.
Right.
But she is raw power. It's not focused at all. Liandrin could skewer her in a second if she wanted to.
Yeah. Liandrin's experienced and been around, right? She's battle hardened. So I will say there was a little bit of CGI, not greatness, with the green screen behind them here as they're looking off into the tower. But
I didn't even notice. So
yeah,
my biggest complaint with the visual of the show is that it's way too dark in the night scenes. Way too dark. But again, it might be a screener thing. They might have that more adjusted for HDR in the
actual
show.
Broadcast, when it's actually mastered. Yeah, they got the lighting right on Liandrin's face as we're looking back, but then when we're looking forward and out, Egwene, you can see that weird CGI, green screen effect behind her. So I don't know. It's just one of those little things I pick up. There was one other cool little thing that that happened, and I'm assuming that this is intentional. As Egwene walks away from Liandrin, on the big fire table there, there's a little vortices of fire that rises up a little bit taller. So as she's leaving, it's like she causes a little fire tornado to swirl up and sort
Ooh,
of follow in her wake.
little
So
visual cue.
yeah. So I thought that
That's
was
cool. Yeah.
I was like, oh, wait a minute. Is that something intentional, or was that, a practical effect gone wrong? But I think it has to be intentional.
Yeah. I think it's intentional.
So, I mean, the only thing that's not intentional is the Starbucks cup on a table,
Exactly. Rand and Selene crash a noble's party, causing chatter between the nobles. Well, Selene fetches the Galedonin red. Lady Alver tries to convince Rand to reject another lady's invitation. He tosses the invitation in the fire, intriguing the nobles more. Lady Alver explains that the hunt for the horn is all a farce to get the citizens of the Foregate out. Selene returns to Rand with the Galedonin red and is amused by his outrage at the farcical hunt. Rand leaves Selene at the party. Wow, how sad was this scene?
I'm pretty sure the actor who's playing the lady here is Lindsay Duncan, who played Servilia of the Junii in the Rome TV show on HBO.
Okay.
I
She's
can't
been in
look
a
her
lot
up.
of stuff.
Yeah, because we don't, have, the IMDb to look up yet. So I liked her. I thought she was a good actor. So it was kind of fun for me to see her in this scene here. There's a lot that I didn't get what's going on. I mean, I got the gist of it, but I don't know. It seemed to go from the Foregate to this and the costume styles.
Yeah. I think this was mostly a nod to a book plot, which is it's like most of the book of the Great Hunt, maybe half of it. I don't know.
Okay.
But it's Rand basically arrives in Kyrian and all the nobles assume he must be an outland lord in hiding because he's got these fancy coats that Moraine had gotten him in the books. And in here, obviously he gets it from Selene. She figures out the coat thing for him.
Right.
But he's got these fancy clothes and he's staying in the Foregate, and they're like, that's a noble in hiding from an outland. So we got to all send invitations. And the first time he throws an invitation in the fire, you could hear like gasps from around, and then more people start sending him invitations. So he keeps throwing the invitations in the fire, and everyone keeps getting more and more intrigued, leading to more and more invitations. And it's kind of a comedy farce in the book. I think it goes on too long in the book. And so I think that this was a clever nod to it.
Okay.
Where they're just kind of like, oh, well, you've made everyone wonder who you are. And yeah. And he just walks out with a stolen bottle of wine and he's fine. Nobody cares. Right. They go, wow, that guy's a badass.
Well, he's proving his cleverness, right? With being able to track down this proper bottle of wine to think he's going to unlock some secrets here.
I think Selene is proving her cleverness. She's the one who figured out this whole plot.
That is a good point. You're actually more right than my supposition is not. He has somebody who
he's got a hookup.
He's got a hookup.
He's got a wine lady.
He didn't even have to be clever or anything like that. He just had to be, the object of the desire of his hookup. So literally.
Right. And Selene says, he goes, why are you helping me? She said, you already know the answer to that question. What do you think? What do you think is the answer?
What do I think the answer is?
Yeah.
Well, it goes to my supposition that she is there's more going on in this relationship than we know. So far. And does she suspect that he can channel? She's certainly not surprised by it later on in the episode.
Right.
So
interesting. Another detail here that we learn is that the citizens of the Foregate are survivors of the Aiel War. Okay. So that's more development. We know that Rand was helping out a patient who was a veteran of the Aiel War.
Right.
And now we have the survivors of the Aiel War being at the Foregate.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so a lot of Aiel talk so far this season.
Okay,
and we've seen them in the trailer, so they're coming.
All right,
in some capacity, we're gonna meet some Aiel this season.
So yeah, all stuff I just have to accept. Yep. I just have to go. Yep. Okay,
Yep. So Rand goes off to find Logain, and they watch the fireworks while Logain drinks his Galedonin red.
Well,
Logain,
throws the bottle anyway.
yeah,
Spills the cup.
he does something with it.
Yeah.
Logain tells Rand he cannot control the channeling, and that it will eventually spill out of him. Of course, using the wine to demonstrate spilling out because Rand doesn't know what spilling is. When Rand calls Logain mad, Logain claims there is no madness, but instead Aes Sedai propaganda. Rand tells Logain he's not the true dragon, but Logain insists the blood of Lews Therin Telamon runs in his veins, letting him hear his whispers. Logain and Rand get into a scuffle, and Rand leaves. Did you remember who Lews Therin is?
No.
Okay, so remember when we did that long flashback to like way back with the previous dragon last season?
You're vaguely. I
Okay, well,
don't, honestly.
the last dragon was Lews Therin Telamon.
Okay.
So he's saying that was me. You know, I have his blood in my veins and I hear his whispers.
I'm a
Yeah.
I'm a descendant. Okay. Which is very Dune in a way, to be able to interact with your genetic ancestors in a
that's not a real
inside
thing
your
in here.
head
He's
thing.
just crazy.
Okay. All right.
You can, so that we know that people are reincarnated in the Wheel of Time. That is, souls are reincarnated in the Wheel of Time. This is a reincarnation world. It is proven to happen.
Got it.
And
Okay.
the dragon will always be reincarnated as
Right.
the dragon.
Right.
So they're not genetically related generally, right? It's just a soul.
Could we have picked a different name than dragon? I don't know. Dragon just sometimes, I don't know. Seems a little.
I don't know. It was picked in 1990. You just got to live with it.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay.
So Logain is still convinced that he's the dragon and that he's been gentled and that the world is screwed, right?
Right.
What's his game plan if he escapes?
Oh, Logain?
Yeah. You can't reverse gentling.
No, and so he would just run around and try to, I think he just end up scamming a bunch of people and trying to,
Yeah. Although I think he's genuinely convinced he's the dragon.
Sure. And as you said, as we have established, that male channelers lose their grasp with reality.
Right.
So.
Right.
And now, Rand. What I thought was interesting that I learned from the scene is that Rand is having to be the Hulk here a little bit. Hey, what's the secret of keeping the big guy from coming out? As Tony Stark asks Bruce Banner, and he says, I've got to be. Basically, I have to be angry all the time to suppress it. So Rand is suppressing it all the time.
Right.
Is what I'm gathering from this scene. And when Selene later, I think this goes even more into my theory. And now the more that we're talking about it, she's trying to get him to let go so that it will come out.
Yeah.
So
she's goading the channeling a little bit.
Yeah. And she's successful finally. Right.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
And of course now Rand is realizing that there is no hope for him. He's looking into the eyes of a madman who, the one guy he thought could help him.
Right. Which I don't know why he thought somebody who went mad from the power would be able to help him not get mad from the power.
Yeah, but how much does he really know and can really understand and intuit? Maybe, they gentled him, so maybe he's not, he's not mad, maybe he's just.
Well, no, but I mean, like, if it made him
peeved.
get mad, why would if it made him become mad, even if it did reverse the madness when he was gentle, which it doesn't, but wouldn't he have already gone down the path that Rand is trying to avoid? Like, I guess you could say, like, whoa, what would I have done differently? But it's, is he really going to know that?
How much did Rand know, and how much could he have known? And what is he's going on the only lead that he's got. Right?
Yeah, fair enough.
This one
months guy, though he spends months doing this.
Sure.
But I guess also he thinks that he defeated the Dark One, so he thinks he has months.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
That's a big problem, is that Moraine made him think he defeated the Dark One when he did not.
Right. So, oops, Moraine.
He just gave Ishamael a boo-boo and then freed him.
You better go fix that problem.
Moraine is not the MVP this season. Not at all. Not at all. She's batting 0 right now. All right. Matt arrives at the White Tower, where he sees Egwene crying and runs away. He visits Min, who notices the door is open and insists they leave. When he hesitates, she escapes. I like this whole scene. Also, can I just say Matt's a dick for not freeing her the minute he was free? He could have done that right away.
Right,
and he waits
exactly.
hours and he comes back. He probably wasn't going to come back, right? Like he came back because he was alone without Egwene, but he wasn't going to come back before that. He was just going to leave Min in there.
Right. Yeah. No, not a great guy.
No.
Not proving
A
himself
bit selfish.
to be oh yeah. Which is fine, but I think the a more playful, irreverent Matt might want a partner in crime, somebody to laugh with, right? Somebody to share the adventure with. So yeah.
Yeah. This was a bit of a problem for the characterization for me because Matt, well, he is always like, oh, I don't want to be the hero. I'm so tired of this. He does end up doing the right thing, right? And he does it without hesitation as long as he gets to complain about it, basically. And that's part of his character. So I wish he would have been like, well, here I am saving the day again and, free her.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get that, but oh well, we know Min's up to something too.
We do.
All right, let's move on because there's not a lot to say here. Perrin awakens in a carriage with Ishamael, who tells Perrin he is being brought to Falma as an honored guest of Lady Suroth. Ishamael offers Perrin water and tries to bring out the monster. Perrin insists Rand killed him, and the wolves attack the Shanshan. Well, Ishamael tells Perrin the more wolf he is, the more Perrin is his. Ishamael leaves, and the tracker frees Perrin. Perrin follows a wolf guide away.
I think my least, and I'm not saying this to to pour any extra spicy sauce on my takes here, because I'm sure there's plenty of Perrin fans out there. But I have to say right now, Perrin is the least interesting for me.
Oh, he's the worst out of the 5. Yeah, he's even in the books. Just I think universally, he's not hated. That's the thing.
No,
he's not hated. People are just kind of like,
and he's got this this husky voice kind of stuff.
Right.
It's like, okay, it's just
There's
a little
an anger in me.
Yeah, it's just a little it's not there's not a dimensionality to him. It's a very flat dimension character thing.
Yeah.
So, and what's Ishamael playing at here? And if he's so powerful, why is he letting the wolves? Why doesn't he just go out and just
He doesn't need to. Power knows power. He doesn't need to. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? They're not going to hurt him.
All right. So
if they come near him, he'll blast them away. But they're not going to.
So what does it mean that the more that Perrin gets wolfy, the more that he is, slipping into the dark side?
Also, this was said by the father of lies. So is it even true?
Oh, good point. Thank you. I should probably keep that in mind going forward. That this guy
Ishamael is certainly an unreliable speaker.
Right. Got it. And now confirmation that the tracker is a wolf. What's his name again?
He hasn't been named in the show, but they are probably going to call him Elias, which is the name of a wolf guy in the books.
So yeah, confirmation that he's wolfy.
He sure is wolfy. So they have combined him with another character in the books that is a tracker that is not a wolf guy. He has a different power where he can essentially smell crime. I'm not even kidding. He can smell violence and use the scent of it to follow like Patton Fane. So they've gotten rid of him. His name is Hurin. It seems like they've gotten rid of him for the show, and they've just put the tracker in, which is probably named Elias.
Okay.
And they're gonna do a dual thing where they have Perrin meet another wolf guy, and they have a tracker for the Shinarans.
Okay.
Which I'm glad they did, because we didn't spend a lot of time tracking before the Shanshan came in anyway.
Right. No, it was they kind of got right to that. So
Min and Matt pack their things before Min sneaks away to Liandrin. Min reports that Matt is going with her to some location both she and Liandrin know. Liandrin says if Min succeeds, Moraine will never have anything over them again. What is Liandrin up to? What is Min up to?
Yeah. The enemy of my enemy kind of thing here.
Yeah, maybe,
So,
maybe.
and what is Leandrin have over Min, and how did she get Min here? And
Right.
yeah, so questions, definite questions.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. I really can't say anything because it's not even a book thing. I just don't know what's happening.
Very convenient to put Min in, knowing that Matt's gonna dig his way and find he's gonna possum his way over to the next cell. So
Right. Right. Yeah, I like that. Rand returns to Celine, who tells him if he ever leaves her like that again, she will kill him. She initiates their rough loving, insisting on him leaving his red coat on, her lord. And Rand begins to channel uncontrollably. She tells him she's not afraid of him. Sometime later, fire spills out of Rand, lighting the inn on fire. Celine runs to get him and asks if he's all right as they watch it burn.
So I'm actually watching the scene a little bit while we're recording here in another screen, and she is definitely not afraid of the channeling energy that's happening, and I think she's definitely um, this is a like we said, she's trying to coax him somewhere.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah,
She's up to something, isn't she?
very much so.
But we don't know
And
what. Well, I know
having
what.
fun while she's doing it.
Yeah. She is sure having fun while she's doing it. A lot of rough loving with them. They are
Yes.
not
Well, this is what I mean. This whole
a little S&M here, you know?
yeah. There's this stuff. There was the stuff with Perrin. There was the stuff with the I'm sorry. Who are the people that are coming over from the sea?
The Shanshan, yeah.
The Shanshan. There's a lot of. This was not a happy episode.
No.
This was
it was very
dour.
well made, though. I really had a great time.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So when Matt was laying there, she got out of bed at some point and just went somewhere else, and then he just woke up uncontrollably. This was like a spontaneous combustion situation.
Yeah, seems like it. He just watched the channeling spill out of him. Rand is,
He
is
just
having
sort of woke
trouble.
up and
Yeah, he's having trouble letting things happen naturally. I think part of it is, I think Logain basically said it, right? You have to let some out sometime or it's going to spill out of you. So he's got to learn. He needs a teacher. That's really what he needs.
Just don't let it out of you when you're in a dry wooded structure.
So the foregate is supposed to be like all wood, right? It's outside of the stone. That whole outside town is
going in flames right now.
Right. Yeah. I was like, oh man, is this whole town going to burn down?
Well, they cut the scene before. I mean, it's really going. And so, yeah, that could potentially.
Somehow I think the Foregate Fire Department is not very good at their jobs. They're all on the hunt for the horn. Oh, sorry. They're on leave.
So I forgot that that this isn't the end. This is what was kind of confusing me. Was I got confused about how he spontaneously channeled, but I get it now. I think I'm on board.
So. Yeah, I think they were just showing it. He was losing control before it finally comes out later in the night.
Right, and he just wakes up. I think
that's fine. Yeah. Yep. All right, we've got a couple more scenes. Egwene tries to channel the archers awake, but Elaine arrives and tells her it's useless and that only more than one Aes Sedai can open it. Elaine convinces Egwene to stop doing things that could get her expelled, then stays with Egwene there through the night. What a nice friend. Sleeping on a stone floor just to make sure your friend's not alone in her grief.
And being knowing that obviously things turn out differently, but the correct answer in the real world is it's not going to happen. But hey, I understand how you feel, so let me be with you and hopefully make you feel better. Yeah, she's a really good friend. She's a really good friend.
She's ride or die. But then inside the Arch world, Perrin delivers a toy sword to Nynaeve's daughter Elnor, who is named after Nynaeve's mother, who we met in the first Arch.
Right.
Uncle Matt comes to visit in lordly clothes with a letter from Egwene. Lan, rocking a new haircut, listens to Nynaeve recount Egwene's letter, which says she and the other Green Sisters are fighting Trollocs. At bedtime, the Trollocs attack their home. Nynaeve puts her daughter in the same position she was as a child, under the floorboards. Meanwhile, Matt, Perrin, and Land are killed by Trollocs. Nynaeve channels in rage, and Eleanor comes out to her mother to see the arch appear. Nynaeve repeats Sheriam's refrain, then rushes her daughter through the archway from Trollocs. When she gets through the arch, her arms are empty. Egwene and Elaine wake up to see their friends sobbing and covered in blood.
So the actor who's playing Nynaeve really sells this scene for me of this holding my child, saving my child, and then showing up and there's no child, and that's
Yeah.
painful. And I just really felt the Zoe Robbins energy here was just right on cue. Like she did her job as an actor. I felt it. It was earned. And I really appreciated the trauma, the 3 traumas that she had to live through, in this.
Yeah.
It was rough. It was really, so again, this was a rough episode.
It was
emotionally.
I mean, yeah, it ends on a super big heartbreak. I mean, could you imagine? I don't want to imagine just like running with your child away from danger and they're just gone.
There's no child. Yeah. I mean, even at the end here, when Egwene is holding her, Zoe Robbins is like, she's drooling and tears are pouring out of her eyes. Like she's actually having a moment, the actor is having a moment here. And so really delivers it.
Let me ask you something that I asked.
Elaine. Oh yeah. Sorry. I was just going to say, Elaine is like, the hell is going on here? This is not supposed to be happening.
Yeah.
So you were going to ask.
Let me ask you something that I asked Elysia. Do you think Nynaeve lived several years inside the arch before she came out? Or do you think she kind of had flash forwards as they went?
So
do you think she lived that in real time, having a daughter of a few years old?
Oh yeah, I think yeah. So from where they cut with her embracing Lan,
right,
to now,
like do you think she lived another life?
She didn't. Yes, she totally lived.
She did not skip
life.
through time. She lived.
No,
okay.
No,
I think that might be right, which is even more traumatic, right? Like you got settled in this new life, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, this wasn't real. And so, like you can't even grieve this daughter the right way because she wasn't real. At least not in this world, I would say.
There are some other lovely parallels, and one of them is I don't want to overcomp the storyline here, but there's a great Star Trek episode with Picard who lives another life. So it's a good storyline, and I like, for me, the way I read it is that it was a full life. And so when she is grieving, it really does suck that badly.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah,
horrible.
So it works. It worked, and it was earned, and I enjoyed it in the way I shouldn't. You know what I mean? I was entertained, by it. What was I going to say? Oh, with the arches. So what you told me before and what we sort of learned so far is that Nynaeve's she's got to Hulk out to use her powers, right?
Yep.
She's got to get angry and do it. And so in these fictional worlds of the arches, be they real or not, there's some sort of moral test that's happening, right? There's some sort of character.
Can you walk away from who you personally care about to serve a greater purpose in the eyes of the Aes Sedai, which is to serve the White Tower?
Right. And so how the intentionality of the archways are set up to, test your character, who knows? But what we get from this is that for Nynaeve to unlock her power, she had to live that full life. And she had to be that angry. And I apologize, the name of the mistress of novices.
Sheriam, yeah.
Sheriam said, you can't use I believe it was Sheriam.
Yeah, one of them said you cannot use the power, right? In these. Like
in my head, it's Sheriam. It could have been in one of the other two. But yeah, you don't have the one power at your disposal. Yet she does. And so the archways are like, okay, you've proved who we know you to be, therefore you get a second chance to leave this situation, right? So
I read it also as she reactivated the archway from within.
That's a good way to do it as well. Like, I don't know if the archways have some sort of moral agency built into them, or if there's a fail-safe mechanism that a channeler of such a power, because it took 3 Aes Sedai to activate the
Mm-hmm.
arches, right? So she's, at least 3x that we know of.
She's very, very, very powerful. Very,
So
very powerful.
whether there's a moral, programming built into the archways, or whether she's powerful enough, either way, I think it works that she's done what she needs to do, and she knows that she can. Yeah, she's gone
Yeah.
through the test, right? She's
Yeah.
passed the test. So
Yeah. Rough episode, like you said, but very rewarding. And I think
yeah,
that it really sets up the season well. And I like Nynaeve even more after this episode. I did not love her at this point in the books. I thought she was still kind of a pain in the ass. And
agreed.
I think
Yeah,
she was kind
agreed.
of, and I think she is in the show sometimes too. She is obstructive and obtuse when she does not need to be.
Yeah,
But
yeah. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Yeah, that's a
I
good way of
think
putting it.
that she really has matured a lot even through this experience, right?
Right.
So yeah,
Cool.
I really like this episode. David, we don't have any feedback because the show hasn't aired yet.
Nope.
But you can send your feedback to wot@thelorehounds.com or head to thelorehounds.com, fill out the contact form, or send us a voicemail.
So right after this, we're going to run through some programming notes about what's coming up. There's not a lot coming up. We'll talk about our affiliates. There's a lot coming up, but it's all pretty much the same. And then we'll thank our Patreon subscribers, and then we're going to cut, and you and Elysia are going to go into super spoiler territory. So this is your warning for the warning.
Yeah, I want to make very clear we are going through all of the books. There is no holds barred. I remember we talked about something in the last book in this section, so do not go past this line if you don't want to hear it. But you have credits to get through still if you want. So you have time to get out.
So quickly about scheduling for September, we are full swing into Foundation. We are full swing into Ahsoka. And we are doing this. And so that is like, we have an abundant triple blessings to you, John.
Triple blessings.
Foundation season 1 reference there. So we're busy with all that kind of stuff, and we'll have some more updates about the rest of our projects in September later. Suffice to say that Properly Howard Movie Review is a podcast you should be checking out if you like pop culture. Do you like pop culture nonsense, John? I think you do.
I think I do. You're putting me on the spot here.
I am. Well, check out Anthony and Steve. Anthony's a academic. Steve's a stand-up comic. They have a podcast. It had been running for a while. It was called Cocoons of Horror. They brought it over to us, and it's now called Properly Howard. And their whole shtick is a movie Ron Howard film better or worse? And this season of films that they're producing, the podcast that they're reviewing, are all remakes. So they did a remake of White Men Can't Jump that was just released. They did coverage of Dune, which we were on with Elysia, talking about the 2021 film. Right after this drops, it's going to be the Wolfman remake in 2010. And the great thing is that you don't have to have seen these movies to enjoy their conversations, because they talk a lot around it and have a lot of fun with it. So please subscribe, check them out. Our good friend Elysia, on her podcast, We'll Shift Dust, which is now pivoted to covering the culture and the background and the history of the Dune novels. We just learned that the studio decided to kick Dune into the 2024 lineup, so it's been postponed. So Elysia is going to be reworking her schedule and re-releasing some stuff. She's still moving forward and talking about who Frank Herbert was, talking about how the books were written, talking about video games that were based on Dune, talking about a documentary that was made about a making of Dune that was never made. So all that is still happening, but it's going to be on a modified schedule, and she's going to let us know what is going on with that soon. Otherwise, she's still rolling ahead with her Silo Book Club, and check out her Patreon, patreon.com/woolshiftdust to get in if you are into having a book club experience reading the Will Shift Dust books.
Cool. Well, David, we have one more bit to get through, which is our thank you to our patrons, especially our lore masters, which are our top tier patrons who keep the wheel weaving, keep the channeling flowing.
They keep the water flowing through our wheel.
Sure do.
Did I say that correctly? Is that right? Is that a right way to?
I mean, there's no water in the wheel. It's all, channeling, but
right,
whatever
okay.
you want, whatever you want.
You are the water boy that turns the wheel. I don't know. Anyway,
they're water boys now. That's
no
nice. Yeah.
I mean, there was a clip. There was something of somebody called Rand, the water boy.
Well, don't worry, lore masters. I think you're better than Nate from Ted Lasso.
All right,
and you all are Samartian, Cyrus, Mark H, Michael G, Michelle E, David W, Brian P, Nick W, SC, Peter OH, Bettina W, Adam S, Nancy M, Lavinia T, Duve71, Brian 8063, Frederick H, Sarah L, Gareth C, Eric F, Matthew M, Sarah M, DJ Miwa, Andra B, Kwang Yu, Laura G, Deadeye Jedi Bob, Nathan T, and our newest lore master, Alex V. Alex, I will mention
we need those little horns.
I know. I will mention that you will probably have been thanked on the latest Foundation podcast, then not the first 2 Wheel of Time episodes, and then this one, because screeners made this timey-wimey. So sorry that you missed out on the first 2 Wheel of Time. We recorded them before you signed up, but happy to have you, the rest of the lore masters, and of course, all our patrons who have been such a big help as we push forward into these 3 shows.
Super generous. I just can't believe that we're not only getting folks, but they're hanging with us. And so, yeah, we really appreciate all of your support. So thank you.
Absolutely. All right, David, it's been a fun triple premiere day that we spaced out over a week or 2.
Ooh, I'm so glad we got screeners. Could you imagine?
I know.
That would have been rough.
Yep. But we did. And so you and I have one more episode of screeners. So we'll at least have that one out day and date. After that, we will see what Amazon does for us.
Right. Well, at least we'll be done with Foundation hopefully by then. Yep. Which I'll be sad about because it's been so good.
It has been really good. It has been. All right, David. See you next week.
Okay. Bye.
There's a ton of great nerdy TV out this fall, from the new Star Wars live-action Ahsoka show to the epic journey of the Wheel of Time. The Lorehounds have got you covered with full recaps, deep discussions, and answers to listener questions.
Search for the Lorehounds on your favorite podcast app, including YouTube and Spotify, for a fire hose of science fiction and fantasy. Or head to thelorehounds.com to join the conversation via our contact form or our Discord server.
Whatever you're watching, we'll be there as your guides to great TV.
Matthew McConaughey, when you're not playing the drums naked or filming car commercials, what do you do for fun?
I'll listen to Properly Howard, of course.
Properly Howard? What's that?
It sort of teleports you to a time of movie magic.
So this is a movie podcast?
Something like that, yeah. It's more than that, though. The professor brings a little bit of that highbrow, and then the comedian brings a little bit of that lowbrow. What you get is a little thing called middlebrow, kind of like the Baby Bear podcast. It's just right, just right, just right.
Fantastic. So if you're looking for a decent film review podcast, come check out Anthony and Steve at Properly Howard, wherever you get your quality podcasts.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Mr. McConaughey was voiced by stand-up comic Steve Osborne, but in all likelihood does represent the views of actor Matthew McConaughey.
Welcome to the White Tower segment, where we send young women to dangerous tasks because we think it builds character. I'm John, and with me is Elysia, who you might recognize from the Will Shift Dust podcast, doing Dune currently, and from our other coverage of the MCU. And she's also popped up on some of our Star Wars coverage. So, Elysia, how are you?
Hi, doing well. Very excited to talk about the Wheel of Time because I am very excited about the 3 episodes that we've seen so far.
Absolutely.
I can't wait for everyone else to see these because, I think they've really knocked it out of the park. I think, some people are going to freak about changes. It's inevitable, but I think that they have made really smart decisions.
Yeah. So speaking of changes, this is a very, very strong spoiler warning.
Yeah.
Once you go beyond this current sentence, you will be hearing spoilers for all 14 books plus the prequel. That is everything through the last battle, through whatever else happens. You don't even know if you haven't read it. So don't listen to it, please. It's a great story. Experience it for the first time by reading or watching, whatever works for you. But don't just listen to us regurgitate plot points. So if you have read all the books, stick around and we'll have a good time. All right. Spoiler warning done. Elysia, you've put together sort of an outline of your thoughts on the changes and some book details. Do you want to walk us through that?
Yes, sure. It's fair warning. It's in a sort of chaotic order because it's I did a rewatch of these 3 episodes this weekend, and these were sort of the things that stuck out to me as interesting for book discussion as we went. So
Okay.
yeah. So first, I just want to ask you. You know, you and I kind of talked privately, but they've combined a couple characters.
Right.
So we've got Huron being folded into Elias and Vendine being folded into Viren. What do you think about that change?
I couldn't even remember Van Dien's name.
Yeah,
So I had to go back into the book and look up who it was. I think that's totally fine. And I like that we're getting more screen time with Varen. So I think that's a really, really smart choice. And Adeleus, you still get half of the pair. So you're having a great time with the Aes Sedai in exile. They're not in exile, but you know what I mean. In the
right.
countryside. One of them's in exile, I guess, but it's not them.
Self-exile, yeah.
Yeah. And as far as Huron, I love Huron. Like he's a very heartwarming character. The way he just looks up to Rand and wants to
Right.
help him with whatever he needs, and it's really heartbreaking later. I think it's a big character moment later where Rand lashes out at him, and you kind of see how far Rand has fallen. But they could do something else to do that. You know, like there's a
Right.
million ways to show how far Rand has fallen.
I mean, because the thing is that there are quite a number of those powerful moments in the books with, a 15-book series, as well there should be. And obviously they can't do all of them, but there are going to be definitely other moments.
Yeah.
I think even in these first 3 episodes, when we start to see it with just that, when Rand is stalking that guy, what's his name, Jan from the asshole who works at the sanitarium.
Right.
And, he goes and he beats them up. And that's where we're starting to see that, just how far is our hero falling. Yeah.
Darth Rand is around the corner.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got Red Coat Rand. So we're
I'm so
full
excited
speed
for the
ahead.
Red Coat. I saw that and I was Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the screen, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I think, I just said when we were talking in the preview episode that I really look forward to that. Although I do wish they had shown them like picking out the coat, it just suddenly he's wearing it, but it's like, why was he drawn to that coat? I wanted to see that. It was the same with Celine being introduced in general. I wanted to see with that first meeting. Okay, fine. They didn't do the mirror world. I understand, but I don't know. I wanted to see her.
I really hope that they don't skip that world, though. I really hope that, or maybe not that world, but I really hope they don't skip the portal stones.
Right.
Because that is one of my favorite sequences in the whole series is I Win Again, Lose Theron, the flicker scene.
Right. No, I mean, I think the flicker scene's so iconic, but I feel like they're setting it up instead with Nynaeve's accepted test, that they're really pushing the boundary of, is this actually just a different reality, which makes it so much more tragic.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's that, but also just this like repeated losing of Rand really sets the stakes for the series, right? There's a million ways he can lose and one way he can win.
Right.
And that really changed the tone of the series for me. Yeah,
I mean, I think that in general the show has been getting a bit more adult and a bit darker, and I like that.
Yeah. Generally I like that. I think my biggest complaint is they're like over-sexing everyone. They're like oh, we have to have another Game of Thrones sex scene, and so
But
all
it's
right.
not at all a Game of Thrones sex scene because
Well, it's a lot more consensual. Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, there's that, but then it's also, they set it up and they just give you like a glimpse, like I like how they
Fair
handle
enough.
the Alana thing. We just see, first of all, but I don't like that. Why is Egwene being so prudish about it? Makes sense for Nynaeve, but anyway. But you just see like a
Okay,
glimpse of
yeah,
it and then they
yeah.
cut away. Or with Rand and Celine. I love that line when they're in bed together and she says, I guess that's just what we'll have to be to each other.
Right.
You help me remember, I help you forget.
Yeah. This
I know
toxic relationship.
there's a lot of people shipping them and they're gonna enjoy that part of it.
Boy, oh boy. Yeah. So he never I'm gonna skip ahead now because now you have me wanting to talk about Celine, Lanfear, and Rand. They never get together in the books. That's not a thing. They never have a relationship other than Rand having a
Right.
crush on her.
Right. Yeah. So but it's not just Rand having a crush on her. It's the same with what they're hinting at so far in the show, that she was in love with his previous life,
Right.
and she's transferring that onto him.
Yeah.
And so that I think is consistent. It's just they've taken the physicality of their relationship a step further, like they did with him and Egwene. But I don't see a problem with that. I think that makes it more realistic. Although I am like mad on Egwene's behalf. Why is she's like celibate in the tower at being a maid, and
Egwene, I'll say I read her not as being prudish, but more as being hyper focused and tense about her training, and she can't
Yeah.
see anything past that.
No,
that's what I
true.
saw. Is she's frustrated that she's asking a question about a weave, and
Oh
Alana's
yeah,
like,
no, that part
oh
is,
well,
yeah.
it's
No,
all
I don't know
about
why
the sex,
Alana.
lady.
I don't know why Alana went on that tangent. No, I'm with
Which is
Egwene
not
on that.
appropriate for your
Yeah.
student, but anyway.
I'm also an eager beaver in the classroom, so that's one of the reasons why Egwene's one of my favorite characters. But
Okay, fair enough.
Speaking of one of my other favorite characters, Moraine, and I have to say, it's been tough to watch her these first 3 episodes. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong in the writing. I think this is the part of the journey that they're on right now, and they're showing more her complexities.
Mhm.
Because they also, they show good sides of her, like how she got the better of Bael Domon.
Right.
But she's being awful to Lan, and I hate to see it.
Yeah. By the way, Bael, they nailed the Ilium accent.
Yes.
They nailed it. I love that, and it's so good. It do be good.
Yeah, I saw this before like they did the casting announcement, and first they're like someone from Ilion, and I was like, and then he walks in and he was like, I do be waiting a long time or whatever he said. I was like, oh my god.
Yep.
I was very excited. He's
They did a
one
great
of
job.
my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of Moraine, I want to bring up, are they changing the way they say the name in the show? Because when I read the books, I thought it was Moraine. They you basically just don't say the I. Then in the first season of the show, everybody was saying Moiraine.
Oh, I say Moraine.
Like
I say
Moiraine?
Moraine, yeah, kind of, but not as like hard as that. I say like Moraine. Yeah.
So it sounds more like Moraine, but it's like Moraine. Right. It's like
it's in there in my head when I'm saying it, but I don't know how much I'm pronouncing it.
Okay. Yeah. So I just noticed that this season, everyone's calling her Moraine, like very straightforward without the I.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I wonder if they had a discussion. They were like, we're confusing everyone with the I. Let's just drop it. Let's just go Moraine. It's easier to say.
I don't know. I haven't noticed that. See, when you say it like that, like I hear that the I is missing when you're saying it. And that to me doesn't sound it.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I'm going to keep an eye on this. I'm going to track the Moraine.
Yeah.
Moiraine. So I've been saying Moiraine in our podcast because that's how they did it in the first season. And I trained myself to match the show. But now I'm like doubting myself.
Yeah, well, me and the pronunciations of all of the characters, like I just figured out, I mean, and I should know this, it was in the glossary, but I've been calling him Mazrim Tame the whole time, and they're like, Taim. I was like,
oh yeah, Taim.
Oh yeah, duh, of course it is.
Yeah, I've had the advantage of both doing the Kindle books and the audiobooks, which has really helped me solidify, because otherwise I'd be just the same boat as you. Yeah. Just hearing Michael and Kate say the names over and over again has really helped.
Yeah. Yeah, and speaking of the names I stumble over, they also mentioned Cadsuane, who I always think of as Cadswana in my head. I like that pronunciation
yeah.
better. But they mentioned her, and Elaine says to Egwene, side by
Yes.
side rooms. This is where Cadsuane met, and it sounds like she says Elena Patag, but I went down a rabbit hole trying to figure out like who
Yeah.
this is or what this is, and I can't find anything.
I did the same thing. I don't remember what I looked up, but I tried to figure out what she was saying. We don't have subtitles, to be clear, on the screeners,
I missed the
which is a
subtitles
shame.
for sure.
But and that I will compliment Apple because they do subtitles on their screeners, whereas Amazon, get your subtitles going. But anyway,
Yeah, Apple's good for accessibility. I'll give them that.
they are. They even have a screeners app on like the Fire TV and stuff like that, which is nice.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right, enough about the tech behind the magic. But Cadsuane and this mysterious woman, again, yeah, I looked it up. I couldn't find anything, but I am glad that they dropped her early because now I think that they're going to include her early.
Right. I think it's going to be Shora Agdashlu.
That would be great. That is from The Expanse, right? She was
right. Mm-hmm.
So this is another name that I read differently in the books, and I can't get in the show. I read it as Avasarala.
Right.
And I think in the show they said Avasarala.
Sorala. Yeah. Okay.
And so whatever you want to say about that name, that is her. Yeah. Yeah. Christian. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think she would be perfect for that character. Yeah. And it's also, do you think we're going to get Taim this season?
Maybe. They have name dropped him and they are setting up all these false dragons, but it does seem like we have a lot to do. Yeah. We have a lot to do, though.
I know. Yeah. And we've also got some new things, threads added in, like Leandrin and her son, which
that's new.
We're recording this like the day after the big Eludrin freak out of Twitter.
Yeah, and like you and I know the answer, but we can't help anyone.
Yeah. So they made a casting announcement that, and they showed, an older man playing a character named Eludrin, and everyone's freaking out that it's Eludra from the books. But yeah, no, they don't even say his name in the first, he appears only in the second episode, and they don't say his name. I saw his name in the credits. I was like, oh God, who's that? Looked up the actor, went through each of the scenes until I finally matched the face with it's Leandrin's son.
Yeah. So that's, again, I think you said this on our private chat, but that is a silly naming choice for this universe.
I even like in my head, I'm like, well, what if they made a younger version of him have Eludra's story in the past? But I'm like, whoa, stop the mental gymnastics. Why? That just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think they just picked a similar name.
Yeah.
But I wonder if they're going to skip out on Eludra's plotline in the show or just name somebody else. Give her a different name.
I think that's one of the characters it would be a mistake to skip because I know the showrunner Rafe Judkins went around and asked everybody, asked a bunch of people, what are the most memorable things from the books for you? And I'm sure that that's a character who came up a lot. She's one of my personal favorites, so maybe I have a bias, but I think a lot of other people feel the same way.
No, she's very cool. And I like how, later in the Camelin plotline, which I'm sure we're going to skip most of because it is, for a lot of readers, like the one of the least favorite plot lines, the Camelin succession plotline.
Mm-hmm.
But this idea of you've just changed warfare in this world. You've just changed the world with this device, with the dragon.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think that actually that's a plot line that I think about a lot because I think it's something they're going to have to not make it a major focus, but just kind of thread it through in the background.
Yeah, that would be fine. I think that the reason people don't like it as much is that it is primarily contained in books that don't contain a lot of movement for the main plot.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah. But for me, that was one of the more interesting things in those books. But it's also, I'm really interested in, mechanical history like that.
I guess it feels smaller when you have this last battle coming, when you have the fate of the world coming. You're like, who's going to wear the crown in Andor?
Yeah, but it's one of the things that I hope that they lean into even more in the books is threading in the idea of how this world is a turning of the same of our world too, where we are an age in their forgotten past, but it is the same world that goes through these things over and over and over again.
Right.
And
Right.
of course, yeah, in a TV show, you're not going to dedicate like a main plot line to that. But if that's something they can see through in the background in the world building with the tools that were given to them in the book, I think that would be great.
Yeah, I think that would be a good decision.
So one character who I think was maybe like the best casting choice of the entire show so far is Elaine. What did you think of
Okay, I
this,
thought you were going
Elaine?
to say Sheriam because that was next on your list. But
Oh
I loved the
no.
casting of Sheriam actually.
Yeah, it's the casting of Sheriam's fine with me, but it's the characterization that I'm struggling with. Because
What's yeah.
Sheriam in the books, okay, so again, we're like full book spoilers here, guys. But so Sheriam, what stands out about her is she's such like a warm, sisterly presence. And
Mhm.
then you find out she's like Black Aja, but not even like Viren Black Aja, but like, has a blacker
Yeah.
heart.
Yeah.
And with this Sheriam, I don't know why they've given her. When I saw the actress, I was like, oh, she could really have that warmth that also has this iciness underneath. But they've only given her character in the show the icy part. So I'm
Interesting. I did not get that. I
okay.
thought that she did have a little bit of the warmth, especially how she's advocating to not have Nynaeve do the tests and whatnot. And
I mean, I thought that she actually was advocating for Nynaeve to do the test. I thought
yeah,
she was like pushing Alana on it, and I thought it was interesting that it seems like it's the Black Aja that was really pushing for Nynaeve to do the test. And then when Nynaeve went to do the test and she was like, "Okay, I'm going to do it," there was like this look on Leandrin's face, like she kind of didn't like that, like she thought that like she was worried about her, she had to push for it, like it was her task, but then she was actually worried when Nynaeve was going to go through with it. Did you pick that up at all?
I didn't pick that up, and I am very curious about what you're saying here, which is that the Black Aja are the ones pushing Nynaeve to move up. Like, why?
Yeah, I noticed also in when they had that scene in the courtyard where they were talking about it, there was a lot of Black Aja members. We had Leandrin, we had Shiriam, we had oh what's the name of the character who's played by the bald actress?
I'm not
Starts with an
sure.
I, but anyway, also Black Aja.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only know that because of the casting news, but
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
but it's just very interesting that they're seeding a lot of Black Aja people and putting them in our faces right up front.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's fun to watch David watch these because he has no idea who people
Right.
are, and I get to be like, so my mildly interesting comment for this season is the wheel weaves. If I know something and I just can't say
Right.
something, I just say the wheel weaves and we move on.
Yeah.
And I've been saying that a lot these first couple episodes.
Oh yeah. Or yeah, the famous one from Robert Jordan is well, it was read and find out, so it's watch and find out. Waffo.
Waffo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I know I've so far overall like been on board with most of the changes. I think that it was very clever to give Van Dien's part to Viren, because that's going to really also help enrich Viren's journey later when, again, big spoiler alert, Adelias dies.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad we're going to get more of Elias, but I also have like an obsession with wolves. So I'm really eager for that story to get going.
Right. Right.
um,
Yeah. I do like that they're bringing more Elias in because that was something that I was honestly frustrated when Perrin had no wolf mentor for
right.
like 6 books and then Elias just finally shows up again.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think it's yeah. I mean, Huron's he's a very lovable character, but I can see
Hmm.
why if you're going to fold two characters together, that just makes a lot of sense.
Also, my
Um,
question is, are they also going to fold in Perrin's other wolf mentor
hmm.
into Elias?
No, I don't think so. I think that he plays a different role.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, Yeah, and I like how they are seeding things like, for instance, we got introduced to Bale in a different way. Obviously, in the books he's introduced in the beginning. He helps them
Right.
escape from Shadar Lagoth, and now we have him showing up to haggle with Moraine, which was a great scene for Moraine. But then also at the end, she's sending him exactly on the journey where we're gonna pick him. Where we pick him up in the books with.
Yeah.
With the shadow spawn on his tail and everything like that.
So another thing in there is the Kyrian location of the broken seal.
Mm-hmm.
Is that saying that that's how Leandrin ended up in Kyrian?
It was the moon
Not
gate.
Leandrin. I'm sorry, Lanfear.
Yeah, Lanfear. Yeah, it was the moon gate. So yeah,
Okay, I didn't catch that. The moon gate. That's funny.
Yeah, I really want to know what's in that poem, but I noticed. Moongate, Kyrian. Oh, but you know what's somebody has been. Well, now there's a popular thing. They just announced the casting of the Gleeman that we saw in Kyrian.
Okay.
Which, first of all, yeah, they did the patchwork coat, so I hope everybody's happy with that.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
But some people were, as soon as he was cast, they're like, could this possibly be Asmodean? Or Asmodean. That's another one. I'm like, which way should I pronounce it?
I think Asmodean. That's how they say it in the audiobooks, at least.
Okay. But could it be because, he goes undercover as a Gleeman and, becomes the ally of Lanfear? Could they be setting that up by having this Gleeman there?
Yeah, they are allied right away in the books, and then eventually Lanfear kind of betrays him and goes, all right, go be his tutor. Go figure it out.
Right. So
yeah, that's a good question, because Lanfear is goading him into channeling, right? She's goading Rand into channeling. And so she wants him to sort of be comfortable with it. What better way than to get him a teacher? Since that's, I mean, we know Rand's actively looking for that. He was hoping that it would be Logain, who is as much of a jerk in this as he is in the book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, but Logain, he grows a lot, but I don't know. He was sounding a little bit incel in this last episode.
Yeah, I mean, well, Logain, he grows a lot, but then in the last battle, he like almost does the very wrong thing, and then last minute decides to do the right thing. So I'm glad he did that. He goes down in history as a hero.
Yeah, but I guess
it was very close.
I mean, but I guess they're setting him up so that he's going to be of questionable morality the entire show, which is like he becomes the good guy just in comparison with Taim.
Right. He's just not outwardly dark.
Right.
He's not outwardly evil. He's selfish,
kind of
but he's not evil, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Oh, and one thing we absolutely have to talk about is so I was so delighted with the portrayal of Uno.
I know.
People are going to freak.
I am actually mad at Rafe for that. I think that was a waste. That was a waste.
I mean, I understand. I understand why it was done, because, they can't keep all of the characters, and I'm glad, and probably he got more of a chance to shine because of that. Because if you think about like who has more important pieces of the overall story to tell, it's not necessarily Uno. So I can see where why they would make this decision, and by doing that, with a beloved character like that, they really established the threat of the Shan-Chan.
That's true, but now I never get to see him struggle to not curse in front of Moraine, which always cracked me up. He's the bloody he like can't. He has to keep stopping himself.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a tough one, and I have to say, when I watched that scene, I had to pause and like go for a walk before I could continue the episode.
Fair enough. There wasn't much episode left after that, was there? That was towards the end. Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost done. Yeah.
Yeah. The Ingtar stuff was really interesting to me, because it does seem to be having a divisive effect between book readers and non-book readers, because I'm reading that as it is, which is he has sympathy for dark friends because he is a dark friend.
Mm-hmm.
then David, I said, you know, what do you think about him defending, you know, insisting
Yeah.
on the burial? And he goes, seems like a very mature guy who's just, you
Uh-huh.
know, everyone deserves a burial, and no matter what they did. And I was like, man, this show is actually doing its job.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's good writing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because I immediately clocked that, you know, because I was saying in our last discussion, I was like, oh, what if it was him at the social, which obviously it wasn't, it was that other guy. But yeah, so I immediately was like, oh, well, he's thinking of himself. He's like, I don't want to be just left to the wolves and just, you know, um,
Right.
I mistreated and all that. But yeah, he keeps saying to Perrin, like, you might not like to think it, but there might be a reason that he's doing that. So we're definitely going to get Ingtar's reason.
Right. Yeah, I think in the books he was trying to ensure the safety of Shinar, right?
Right.
Which was not a very good choice. That's not how you ensure the safety of anybody.
No, you don't let the enemy in. That's no.
Right.
But I think we're definitely going to see that redemption arc that you were wondering about. What do you think? Do you think Leandrin's story is going to go down the same way? Because they're adding so many more layers of complexity where, you know, she's really she really hates men.
She does.
And you can see she takes it out on Matt, but then of course she has her son who she obviously loves very much. And her behavior with Nynaeve especially is just really making her sympathetic.
Yeah. Well, also, but she lashed out at Nynaeve. I think Nynaeve is pissing her off, and Egwene really is pissing her off.
Yeah. So
I think what they're going to have happen is Egwene's going to piss her off enough to give her to the Shanshin.
Okay. Whoa. Okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, Nynaeve, I think Nynaeve just pissed her off because Nynaeve pointed out to her that she was hurting her son. And
yeah.
And part of her will appreciate that, but she also just hates being told that by someone, you know.
A novice, yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And what do you think it's up with her and Min? Like, she's
Great question.
Yeah.
She must have something over Min.
Yeah, well, she said something like, Moraine will be after us both unless you do this thing. Whatever.
I don't know, maybe
this
she
thing
has her
is with
convinced
Matt.
that Moraine is Black Aja.
Maybe. I mean, because there was some tension between Min and Moraine in the last season in the bar when we saw them, and something. I mean, it's definitely something to do with her having visions and whatever her background is in Tar Valon. But
yeah.
Although
now we know she accidentally ended up in Tar Valon.
Right. Well, I think she accidentally ended up. She said she was avoiding it because she grew up there, but I think she accidentally ended up back there after she left Shinar.
Right.
Do you think that she and Matt are flirting?
I think she's being flirty because she's trying to get something out of him.
Okay.
And as we know, Matt is not the strongest around women he thinks is attractive.
Yeah. I'm wondering if they might add some extra love triangle dynamics to emphasize the degradation in relationship between Rand and the other boys.
There is no need for any more angles in Rand's relationships.
Right.
No more angles. We already added Lanfear and Egwene. Like, Egwene was never a full romance in the books. It was, we were promised to each other. I honestly like it better that way. I wish they didn't have them, in a full relationship.
I disagree. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it makes more sense this way.
Okay. I liked it better as his promising to Egwene, unofficial promising, was part of his Shire, part of his, I want to go back to this simple life where everything was worked out for me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas they're like a little bit secret relationship adds a little bit of darkness to Emond's Field that I don't think it needs. I really wish they had made Emond's Field more of the Shire.
It wasn't a secret relationship when they were in Emond's Field.
Okay.
It was just that she was going to have to give it up because apparently in this version, wisdoms don't marry. Yeah.
Although I thought in the books they often didn't either.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Also, I can just imagine it would be the type of woman who might not like.
Yeah. Sort of like Aes Sedai, like they can marry, but They're
Yeah,
so busy, they're so, in their work that they often don't.
that's not their main concern in life.
Right.
But yeah, speaking of Rand's loves, do you think we're going to meet any? We know we're getting Galad, Gawain, and Eleda, and I think more gays. Do you think we're going to meet them this season, or do you think not until season 3?
I think Galad and Gowan this season. Elida not until season 3. And Morgaze not until season 3.
Okay.
I think we'll have a similar thing of sending Matt there. I liked that scene where we sort of see another Forsaken. I don't think it will be. Now I can't even remember the name of the Forsaken that was there because he was so unimportant.
In Camelin?
Yeah.
No, I actually was just rereading that.
Robin.
Yeah. Okay.
Robin.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we'll get Robin. We'll see.
No, I think they'll sub him out for somebody else. Maybe they'll do Samael there and take away the whole Ilian plotline.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it was speaking of Min's. I was just thinking about speaking of Matt and Min. Min's vision with Matt's stabbing Rand. What do you think that's about? I mean, that's obviously going to be some sort of fake out. I think
it's going to be a flicker.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's a flicker. It's a perfect excuse to, wipe that away, but still have it make sense. Because we know that in the books,
as Rand.
I don't know, because in the books, this is my thing with the flicker. In the books, Matt comes out and he's like, "I would never betray you, right, Rand?" So we know that he saw something where he betrayed Rand.
Okay.
So I wonder if we'll see Matt have a flicker of that. We'll flash between different characters involved in the flicker.
But would Min see a vision from a flicker though, or does she only see visions from our reality, or the main reality?
I don't know, because if Matt experiences it, doesn't it become part of our reality? It gets a little wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, we also got another iconic moment from the book, which was the fade on the door, which I actually found it was very cool. But like the fade fight and the episode right before that was even cooler.
Yeah.
I
think that was actually really effective because you have these terrifying fades in episode 1. Episode 2, you come in and you're like, "Oh, well, those terrifying things? Well, this one got, hung and crucified by something else. What else is there out there that like ups the stakes there?"
Yeah. Do you think we're going to see other like dark creatures? We haven't seen any of the Drakkar or like.
Right. We gotta because the last battle can't just have fades and Trollocs, things that we've seen since season 1.
And the Shan-Chang creatures too were also really cool sounding.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope we do.
But I loved the intro of the Shan-Chang in general, like just having them pull them out of their beds in the middle of the night. And
and we got Surath. We got a name drop.
Yeah, and Alwyn, her voice, who I expected to be louder for some reason, but it's kind of, I guess, more menacing in a way that she's like, "I'm just going to speak like this, and you all shall listen."
Yeah. I did enjoy all their costuming. It was just very strange and alien,
Yeah,
in a good way. Like
exactly.
It was completely non-functional,
right?
Which is what made it kind of.
You mean the nails?
What?
Yeah,
the nails and the mask where you can't see the eyes,
but she can see out.
Yeah, fair enough. But I guess it's just like, don't even look at my eyes. You can't see my eyes. Yeah.
Well, I think that's I like that because it communicates that visually, and also it's probably easier for the actress because I know it's hard not to look at someone who's talking to you.
Right.
But I like how in the books they keep describing their armor as bug-like, and I really see that. But it also looks like there's a lot of like Asian influences in it, but also a lot of Native American influences in it, and like those melded together, and that really creates something.
Well, Shan-Chang is supposed to be basically like America, right?
Right. Exactly. That's what I think about it.
That's North America, and also they did not bring in the Texan accents into the show.
Well, but I think they kind of did, like especially Alwyn, the voice, like she was like, "And I am speaking like this," you know.
I didn't hear that much, but I'll keep looking out for it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, because they didn't speak that much, but she was definitely doing it more than the actress playing Suroth, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like, The Office. That's Dallas.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I think, yeah, they didn't want to make it like too on the nose Texan.
Well, here now we are the
Yeah.
Shanshan. Yeah,
And
that
it's
would have
also
been a little silly.
yeah, and it's an entire continent, so I can imagine accents would vary.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I'm just thinking about the books kind of
Yeah.
describing their drawl like that almost.
Yeah.
I actually hate the way that they do it in the audiobooks. It's
Okay.
they like grit their teeth and they talk like this, and I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't love that. I don't love that. It always took me out of it.
Yeah. No, I thought this was off to a good start, and I'm really excited because I keep thinking of like certain scenes from the books when we, get to see inside the power plays within the Shanchan and things like that. I'm really excited to see that. Yeah.
I wonder if we'll get Nynaeve and Elaine's Shanshan friend.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Eganon. I think we have to because I think that's an important part of Bale's story, and now
Yeah,
that he's
yeah,
been introduced, and also that's one of the key allies that lets us see inside Shanshan culture.
right. But will they find a way to put that into Tuon's story and just not give Bale a wife?
Why? Why do that? I love their
Because
love story.
because he's got his Ilium accent and he just doesn't need a wife. No, I don't know. I don't know, just for character condensation for storytelling efficiency.
I mean, I think it makes sense. I mean, because that's the biggest part of his story. What are they going to do with him otherwise?
He could just be a nod. Like, we don't know how much they're going to use him right now.
No, that's true. Oh, yeah. I hope
He
it's
could be
not.
written out after this scene.
Oh no.
Sorry.
I mean, at least have the courtesy of spiking his head so we know it's over.
Fair enough. Fair
Oh.
enough. Yeah.
I mean, we know. So I guess we have confirmation. Speaking of people written out, that Agenor is written out. And I think that that makes sense. We're cutting back on Forsaken, but also I liked so much that Nynaeve's accepted test in the book. Her first part, when she goes through the first archway, that's for the past, and in the
Mhm.
book, it's about her experience. At the book equivalent of the battle that took place in episode 8.
Right.
And I'm so glad they didn't go back to episode 8, but instead
Right.
took the opportunity to go back to her childhood and pay off something they set up last season and give us real insight into her experiences. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That was a great adaptation choice. The whole sequence of the arches was amazing. I loved episode 1. I liked episode 2. And I was a little worried coming out of episode 2. I was like, are we on a downward trajectory here? Then episode 3 came in, and it came in hot. It came in with the accepted test. I was like, oh, this is good. And the fake out was so good. Like, they really got me.
They even got me. Yeah. I've read the books. I know this, but they still because they showed her saying goodbye to Egwene. That's what I was realizing in my rewatch. That's how they really got me.
Right. Yeah. They did like a full. So, we just saw her come out at the end. Do you think she lived like years within this portal and then came out?
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I love it so much, because it's reminding me of some of my favorite episodes of television, like the Magicians episode, Life in a Day, where, they, Elliot and Quentin live an entire reality in a separate timeline. And then it's like beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. Yeah. I have a soft spot for that kind of story. There's also a MODOK episode that does that. The second one, the MODOK that time forgot, and those are just good standalone episodes of television, even if you don't watch the rest of those series. I don't know that this qualifies as that because it's so tied into everything else, but I think that's it's because this was definitely my favorite of the 3, and it was doing so much and doing it well, I think.
Right. Yeah, it was. And I knew she was going to come out, so that tension wasn't there for me. But as far as I thought that they were going to change her storyline to have her leave the tower for at least a period. I thought that was happening. And I was really disappointed by that. So it was such a pleasant surprise to have her actually come out at the end.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but they really dragged it out for the non-readers, having Egwene being told that she was dead, and
Yeah.
there's people online freaking out that Egwene's going to go in there and save her. But I
Yeah.
think it's really nice that Egwene tries, but
Hmm.
she can't. And Elaine is there to kind of rein her in and be like, calm down, you're only going to hurt yourself. And
Yeah.
then Nynaeve still saves herself, but they
Right.
still have that bonding moment over it.
Right. It worked really well for character moments, like you said, with Elaine, but also with Leandrin. It gives a motivation for Leandrin to pick Egwene to deliver to the Shanshins.
Mm.
Where I think in the books it was more, well, these are the most powerful channelers in the tower. But in the show, they have not been leaning into Egwene's power at all. They've mostly been saying, Nynaeve, you're really, really, really powerful. And I think it's for character motivations and it's a
Yeah.
valid choice. But,
Well, I think they're like Egwene, but,
right. I mean, because I think they say in the books, right, Egwene would have been the most powerful channeler in 1,000 years, but for Nynaeve.
Yeah. And they do say that, for instance, like in the conversation between Shiriam and Alana, Alana's rattling off like all these powerful people, and she says, like Nynaeve, Egwene, Logain, Taim. So she includes Egwene in that list.
Sorry, my wife was texting me about the baby, so
Oh, it's okay.
I'm just texting her back. Yeah, so they pay nod to it, but I think they're not stressing it so that they can have this whole jealousy plotline, which I think is valid because there is a period of time in the books for sure where Egwene is just pissed off that Nynaeve is always so ungrateful about her power and
Right.
always just like acting like she's still the wisdom of Emmons Field.
Yeah. And you can see from Nynaeve's angle. I mean, I relate to Egwene more in the books, but I see from Nynaeve's angle, she was in a position of power and now she's being put back on the bottom rung. So it's why
Sure,
she's eager to
but
get past that.
that's just life,
Yeah.
You decide to leave your small pond for a big pond, and that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, speaking of the channeling stuff, so one thing that's being discussed is Logain, and he tells Rand that he can see other men who can channel rather than in the books seeing other Taviran. And I think that makes sense for the show.
Yeah.
I know some people are upset about it. What do you think?
I like it. I'm into it. How are people upset about it?
Yeah,
Is
just
there
that it's
chatter?
a change. Yeah, there's chatter.
There's screener chatter.
I mean, I think not from no, because they released that scene as
Okay.
as a promo scene.
Interesting. I was like, is there like this forum of people who have screeners?
Yeah. And you weren't invited. No.
Yeah. No, just leave me out.
But
I've been
actually,
cast out of the tower. Go on.
I'm surprised by the scenes that what they've released, because they've released now 2 scenes from episode 3. They released a Rand Fear clip that we haven't seen yet. So that must be at least episode 4.
Right.
I'm like, okay, stop. You're like, let the people see the show.
Yeah. I'm still baffled by their decision to release 3 on the first night. I could see.
Yeah.
I think you said this, which is, it's better that they release 3 than 2 because 3 ends in a better spot, which is absolutely right. But I think it would have worked better as weekly drop. Release episode 1. That was a good opener. I would have wanted to come back after that.
Yeah, exactly. And with that Fade fight, and now it's almost like the Fade fight gets lost in the wave of everything that follows.
Right. Yeah, it's a shame. But it is what it is now. We have nowhere else to go.
Yeah. But I one other thing that I didn't bring up is I am one of the people who loves New Spring. It's one of my favorite books, and I love that they made so many overt references, just had like straight up telling Moraine and Logain's story from that book.
Yeah, that was great. They actually told the throw in the pond story.
Yeah, exactly, and exactly the way. And I know people are worried about the cultural customs in Shannara of the older woman taking the younger boy into sexual maturity, and
not great.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if they're going to talk about that more.
Yeah, that might just be a nod to it, and we move on, and
what that means for the whole Thailand story.
Yeah, the Thailand. I think that's going to be very dampened.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, or they make it as horrifying as it is. I think that's
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's a question because it will make the show about that for a little while, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it will take over the show for a little while if that happens.
Be a lot of discourse about it, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. But they're leaning into the heartbreak, like, oh man, having Nynaeve run out of that last test with her baby in her arms to find empty arms, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's really bad. That was rough.
Yeah,
Rough.
Do you think it's going to be next episode we see Egwene captured by the Shantra?
Oh, good question. I don't know. I think a little later. I think a little later in the season. I don't know if they're going to drag that out because it's not going to be fun to watch Egwene in a gag the whole time.
Right.
Especially because there were no gags, I believe, in the books. Right? I think some were gagged, right? But
Right.
this is
No, they didn't have
very different. This is very different in the show. This is a lot more dehumanizing, even though it was very dehumanizing in the books.
Yeah.
And
Well, they don't have the physical leashes in the show, so
that's true. I'm a little disappointed because it makes it less clear that they are under the control.
I don't know. I feel like it's pretty clear. They shout the things and they're
That's true.
always the woman's just walking in front of them. Oh, that young woman who like did the creepy pointing thing, she was so good.
Yeah, that was good. That was really good. Very horrifying, but I would like
Mhm.
to hear Egwene speak and not have her be gagged for 4 episodes. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that they do that later and they don't drag it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
hoping they don't drag out that part, even though in the books that was really when because Egwene she learns through that how to manipulate like the earth elements. She becomes unusually strong in that, and earth
Yeah.
and fire, and that also kind of sets her up. Obviously she's already obsessed with learning, but she
Right.
becomes the sort of exchange student around the world.
Right. That and it increases her power a lot because she
Mhm.
just is forced to go further than she should.
Right.
And it sets up trauma that she has to work throughout the series and becomes a big character development moment.
Right.
Yeah. Well, anyway, this was supposed to be 15-minute segment
Right.
about spoilers that is now closer to an hour. So I think it had to be because we're discussing 3 episodes this time. Usually we will be doing this once per episode, and that'll be fine. I think that will be slightly shorter.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. This is a lot of setting up the whole season with the new characters. I'm just so glad that they just went ahead. I was so excited with the first episode. Like, wow, they're already introducing Bale. Here's Viren already. Here's Shiriam,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, Elysia, it's been a lot of fun talking to you about the Wheel of Time here at the White Tower, and we will see you next week.
Enjoy. And the wheel weaves as the wheel wills.
The Lorehounds podcast is produced and published by the Lorehounds. You can send questions, feedback, and voicemails at thelorehounds.com/contact. Get early and ad-free access to all our episodes at patreon.com/thelorehounds. Any opinions stated are ours personally and do not reflect the opinion of or belong to any employers or other entities.